Hello, Deanna.
Hi there. How's it going?
This is Robert.
Hi, Robert. Hi, Mason. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Diana. I hope are you all healthy now? Or kidding?
I'm definitely, healthier. I wouldn't be here teaching, but my voice is still not completely recovered. Wednesday, although I was feeling okay, I was still hoarse. I still had no voice. My whole family caught it. So it's been a pretty crazy week because usually it's the kids who bring it back from school or something. But this time I was the one who started it. And as you know, but everyone in the family went ahead and started getting it. It's been, but my oldest son lost his voice completely. Like he had to, nothing, just whispering for a few days. It's been kind of crazy. So yeah, my voice is not the happiest, and I have all the lozenges right next to me, but I'm feeling perfectly fine. How's everyone doing? Oh, I hope I have my tissues here. Yeah. As I say, I'm perfectly fine, but the cough takes forever to go away. Hi, Lynn. Hi, Tadia.
Hi.
All right. So I'm letting people in. So there was one of those targeted outages, where they warn you that they're going to turn off your power overnight. Well, from midnight to 5 or 6 a.m., whatever. And my computer was completely reset, and it connected to I forgot to turn it off. Connected to the wrong Wi-Fi. So sorry that it took me a while to get set up again. So I was looking at the things in the Padlet, and I just wanted to share with you guys really quickly. Here it is. Because there's some beautiful flowers that you guys kept working on, and a couple of shapes. And look at this cute little baby. And I like how you showed the outlines of your shapes. And then this one. So just working with the things that we know, just modifying the circle into different shapes and then putting some colors into it. That's awesome. I love that. So well done, Mary. So do you guys ever go in to see what other people are posting? Look at these flowers, look at the gradients. So we began to talk about colors last week. Began to show you how to get more colors from libraries of established colors. And so a few of you guys, I saw one or two. Well, here I see a gradient was applied. I'm looking to see, I thought there had been a few more gradient. Oh, here's where someone put some patterns also, right? So I want to talk a little bit more about these other things that have been going on. And then someone asked, "Oh, how did you get the patterns in there?" And so I'm wondering who asked. And Edgar, just go ahead and notice that people ask and make comments. Yeah, so go in and see if some people have questions or something like that. And then here, someone's asking me about the position of the pattern. So remember when I showed you how the pattern doesn't move, you can make the shape bigger or smaller, but the pattern stays fixed. I showed that, right?
Yeah, but it doesn't work for me, Diana.
Well, when you move the shape, the pattern stays as is. Oh, you mean you can't move it? For you, it does stay with the shape.
Yes.
opposed to what I showed.
I
Oh,
don't get to pick where what part of the pattern.
no, me neither. That's what I was showing. The pattern is like something that exists and you move the shape over it as if you were moving a little hole over an existing area. So you don't get to choose what part of, are we saying the same thing or the opposite
No,
thing?
no, I think we're saying the opposite. So when I move the shape,
The
the
pattern moves with it.
pattern
Oh,
comes with it.
Bye-bye.
Doesn't let me choose.
I see what you mean. Well, when we open it up, maybe it's a different, maybe we have it on a different setting. So so we'll check on that. So anyway, I just wanted to share this with you guys. Pretty cool. And I'm opening up my BDI, which is resisting. I told you about, I had reset my I didn't reset it. I forgot to turn my computer off for the power outage, and so my whole system reset, and it's yeah. Hi Ed, not really, still sick, but you know, one of those lingering coughs that cough in the tissue box, and has been my best friend for the last week. Yeah. And the cough that doesn't go away, but I'm feeling fine. Just my voice is a little bit iffy. So yeah. So
Hey, Diane, before you start,
mhm.
did you get a chance to attend any of the Photoshop Summit stuff?
No, my entire family got my bug. I was saying at the beginning. I was the initiator, and then it became like a real sick house here for a while
You
there.
have 48 hours to see Thursday and Friday.
Okay.
48 because Thursday and then Friday's 48 from today.
Okay.
And it's amazing. It really
All
is.
right. Yeah. So you guys remember what he posted about the Photoshop Summit?
Mhm.
I didn't get a chance to connect to any of it, but it's good to know. So it's still available until Friday, until today. You said
Well,
48
Friday-
hours
Yeah, 48 hours from today for Friday,
From
48
today.
hours for free. If you want to,
Okay.
if you want to pay for the VIP package. and
Yeah,
got
then
it
you
twice.
keep it all the time.
And
Yeah.
then you can see Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday if you want. But,
Okay.
and I don't get any money for promoting them, by the way.
No, I know. And
It-
it's a great,
it's got- It's
a-
really interesting because it's got so many different people, you know, like Matt Klosky is one of my favorite Photoshop guys.
mhm.
And so he's doing a whole bunch of stuff, and he says, don't use channels anymore. They're absolutely obsolete. The selection tools do a much better job than anything else. The next guy I watched who I'd never seen before, the entire hour was on
Is that
using
about channels?
to do selections. And I'm going, okay, well, you're learning different approaches.
That's, one of the things that Photoshop, Illustrator, all these programs, they are tools for artists.
Yeah.
And guess what artists do? They all choose to use things their own way and make them their own. And
Well-
neither one is right or wrong. There's just different.
It's just like taking the classes at City College, because when I take your Photoshop class, you're a designer. And when I take the other guy's class, he's a retoucher.
Mhm.
So you see these very different views. I mean, he
Mhm.
goes on retouching, he goes way beyond anything I'd ever do, but he's
Mhm.
being paid to do it. I'm not.
Mhm. Mhm.
So yeah, it's really interesting. Anyway,
Mhm. Yeah, you need to consider what the use of a tool will be. I had never thought of just, painting or not painting, drawing, like painting
Yeah.
in Photoshop, yes, but I had never thought of drawing things in Photoshop. So when my son first started doing illustrations and showed us Photoshop, I was all like, well, that's not where you do illustrations. You're an illustrator.
well, Matt made a very important point, and that was that his talk yesterday was 10 things I wish I knew when I first learned Photoshop.
Mm,
But the first thing he said was, it's so not much that I learned, it's that Photoshop changed. That, for instance, when you used to do selection way back then, you used the pen tool. I remember learning Photoshop when it first came out and then saying, I'm never going to do this. This is way too much work. He said, you have no need to use the pen tool anymore.
Oh God, yeah.
And so about half the stuff was, this stuff is obsolete, but Photoshop can't get rid of it.
No, okay. I mean,
It's
it
obsolete.
just,
It's obsolete for a photographer. He
exactly. I
says
was gonna
they can't
say,
get rid of it because
because
used
Photoshop
by
is
everybody.
not just for photographers. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why they have the workspaces, right?
Yeah.
And you use
And
what you
I've-
can. But I just want to say that my first job, I was a freelancer for an art studio, and they hired me as a art director because because of the pen tool, in the sense that I created a whole line of designs for the studio based on how well I was able to select some shapes. It was classical statues that I put on a flowery background. Never mind. The whole point is that I had to go and do a good selection of these statues. It was impossible to do with anything other than the most precise work of the pen tool. And after a while, when they were hiring for someone in-house, they offered me the job because they were amazed at that pattern. Today is just press the button, right? So yeah, you never know. But it's not, but it still has its place. And for some people, it's very important. So, okay. So guys, did you guys ever have to download the class files that I gave you or not? Did I never have you guys download class files? Because I know we've been creating from scratch, but I did have some class files. It's just that I didn't know. I always said, well, at some point I'll make you guys download them. But did we ever go through that?
Yes.
Yes, Ed, but maybe you did. Did everyone do that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So,
VDI.
because I know that people who've been in my class before
Yes.
used to do that, but okay. So, for those of maybe, so let's go with those of us who are in, VDI. Who's left in VDI at this point? I need to know. Okay. I think Ali is in VDI. Isabel is in VDI. Is that it?
Liz.
I hear that, Isabel. That's okay. All right. So for those of on VDI, if you just, then you don't need to download them, is what I'm trying. My mouse disappeared. All right, mouse. There you go. I think I'm losing power. Go to Google Drive. And for those of you who downloaded them, then you'll have them somewhere. Maybe you put them in your downloads folder, wherever you have them. So for VDI people, and go to Google Drive and then into the shared drives, and then find, this is from Bridge, by the way, and then go into your Illustrator shared drive. I haven't been using Bridge much in this class yet either. So do you guys have Bridge open?
Yes.
It just occurs to me that I am starting it this way when I've always started us in this class with blank files. So I just want to make sure. Hello, there they are.
I will in just a moment.
Mhm. I'm gonna mute. I think is it Rashmina? Who? Someone's got someone in the background making noise.
That's not me.
Okay. Maybe Liz. There we go. Sorry, Rashmi, I'm trying to find it, so I go around muting wherever I see a possible sound. Okay, this is taking a while to pop in, interestingly enough, but this is the folder with all of our Illustrator class files. Now, if you do not have them, let me know, because I can download this and just email it really quickly, because we're just going to use one of them today. Well, later we'll use another one, but I just want to make sure that you all have them. Okay, so
Can you email it to me? I haven't downloaded it. It's taking a while to download.
okay, it's taking a while to show up in mine too, interestingly enough. I mean, it's showing up, but the little previews are not showing up, so I don't know. And I'm waiting for the previews because the file name isn't necessarily
You know
Anyway,
what? Don't worry. I think I'll just log into VDI and
it's
I'll
going
just
there.
take it from VDI.
Okay, well, you don't need to go into VDI. What you need to do if you're not in VDI, guys, is always just go into Google Drive, right? So you can go into pipeline. So this is, you do this, you would go into pipeline and then go into your shared drives there. So definitely not VDIs. If you go into VDI, it won't download onto your own computer. It'll download inside of VDI and then you have to stay there. So what you do, if you don't have the files, go to the student resources, Google Drive, like that. And then over here, you go into shared drives and then into Illustrator shared drive. And then here we go. This is the Illustrator class files. You can right click, don't go into them, and just download the whole folder that way. Okay. So that's how, if you haven't downloaded the files, that's how you would get there. All right. Okay, so
I got them.
got it.
Thank you.
So I'm back to, excuse me, give me a second here. I'm gonna mute myself to. All right. Okay. So there's I'm trying to actually, let me look for them in here because since these aren't changing, they're not, the previews aren't popping in. Let me just go in here to see for a second the ones that I'm looking for. Okay. So okay, Tori Jab. So I'm gonna open this one. You guys can open it or not if you have it. If you don't have it, don't worry too much about it, but it's this one called Kate Tori. So here it is. So I'm just gonna open it. Somebody's got music going on in the background. If you have noises and stuff happening in the background, please mute yourself. All right, so I'm opening this one called Cade Tori. And the reason I'm opening it is we're not gonna work inside of it. So you can just watch. You don't have to work. But I wanted to show you an example of a file where, so this is an illustration done. This was God, many years ago, a client I had who had drawn a whole children's book and had drawn it in a certain format, and it needed to be reformatted for an ebook, and then we had to reformat it into from a rectangular into a square children's book, et cetera, et cetera. So we had the same art and we had to rework it a bunch of times. And they had been drawn shape by shape. When I mean shape by shape, look what's going to happen when I select this bird. It's a ton of different little bits and pieces. See that? And look at, I'm going to select the background, and each one of these is a shape. But she had done it all willy-nilly. And I just wanted to show you a bit the power of groups, although this only has two big things, but going into layers, here I am showing you these. Let me turn this off. This is the whole bird, and that's the whole background with the hillside and whatnot. So you could just grab this and say, okay, I'm going to select this entire group and just kind of move this bird over a little bit further or a little bit down there, right? But so you can group as many shapes, or you can decide, in some cases it was flying bigger and some of the wingtips were higher and lower and stuff like that. So I thought I was going to show this to you when I was teaching you about groups, but I didn't have Bridge opened up a while ago, so I just wanted to show you that. There's oh, looks like there's a little bit of black hanging out there. Don't know where it belongs. I lost it. Oh, there you go. What's that doing here? It's probably from one of the many times I showed this here. So anyway, I just wanted to show you how you can create a more complex shape too. Let me move that out of the way. Turn it a more complex shape with lots of really simple shapes that got created by this was done by a girl. She was, I think, 13 years old. She drew this whole book, and then her parents hired us to make it a book, but she had no idea about technique or whatever. She just sat there and just made shapes, right? But it's a perfect way to get this one. And this isn't the most impressive. There's some other that are really good shapes. Anyway, so that's why I say you don't need to open it. You just need to look at this. But if you want to move this whole piece, you can, because it's all one piece. But say that you decided that you wanted one of these feathers to be different. So you can say that I wanted to change this feather. Do you remind me what I would have to do to change just this feather? Because if I were to now want to select this feather and change it the color, as we said before, the whole thing, the whole entire group changes, right? So that's not the way to do it. So how should I go ahead and do this?
The white select.
Yeah, not direct select, no. I mean, that would work.
I mean, the white. Oh, no.
Not the white selection tool.
So going to the layers and.
Going into the isolation mode by double clicking.
Exactly.
Oh.
Double clicking. I want to see if you guys remember the isolation mode. So I'll double click and see how everything turns pale. That's not this group. And by the way, let me show you that again. Let me walk out and go to the layers. Look what's happening here. Remember that this is this is the whole shape that unless I go into layers, you don't see all these things. But even if I open it up and see these things, I'm going to double click and this feather. And over here, it goes into this thing called isolation mode. It only shows me this group now. The rest of it goes gray. Over here, you see this thing as if I gone one layer in from the main layer into the group. Then I double click again. And then it isolates that one shape from all of the rest. And so the bird is also ground pale. I call it pale or ghosted. Then I'm left with the one shape. Okay, so then I can go into properties and change the color of that one. And maybe this is going to be a bright pink feather. Now I can back out step by step to choose another feather. If I hit the escape key, I go back to normal, right? I just completely back out of the whole isolation mode and I'm left with one pink feather. But if instead I'm in this mode where I'm already in here and I just want to grab another feather, I can just back up one layer over to the group again and then choose the next feather and then go over here and make this one yellow, right? And then back up one way and choose another, etc. So just showing you how you can move around inside of this. And then when I'm done inside of the isolation mode, I hit escape and I back out completely and then I'm done. I click away and then I'm done completely with anything. Why am I not?
Diana, crossover question.
Yeah.
If I'm in Photoshop and I click on something that has many layers and groups on it, does this work also?
No, not at all.
No. Okay.
In this case, it's layers and groups are completely different.
Okay.
But if you actually hold down, I think it's command and option, and you click on something, even if it's grouped and grouped and grouped, you end up getting just that one little bit. That's the shape that you want. You're welcome. All right. So so when you have a complicated shape, and now back to the flowers. So heading back to the flowers that we were doing. If I go back to file open, and if I even go to open recent files, you could go in and find the one that we made last. But if I just go to open, no, not open, file from here. I guess if you just go to open new. No, I'm trying to see where you can find the original, the recent, the ones that you did. Hold on. Once you've already opened something, I guess you can't from here. You just have to see it. You have to remember what you called them. Okay, so I'm having, okay, so some of you guys are in both of my classes, right? And I'm going to close this file, by the way, so we don't need to make these changes. So I'm saying no. When you're in two of my classes, since this happened 2 weeks ago, I'm a little bit confused right now. The last time that we worked here was with a group flowers, right? This, okay, yeah, because this we were doing in digital design. Okay, I thought we had done this in Illustrator, but we did this in digital design techniques. Normally these two classes don't overlap. I do them at different sections, but this time my digital design techniques and my Illustrator classes have overlapped in the part where I'm doing the Illustrator portion of it. So I just wanted to make sure here that I had it right. So over here where we had done our flowers, if you go into your saved flowers, if not, go and open it wherever you created the group flowers, because I'm going to have us pick up one of those flowers and take it over. We're going to show you what happens with colors. So you'll find your group flowers. Most of you called it that, the last one that we did here in class. And by the way, for those of you who showed up later, I was showing the Padlet. Look at the amazing variety of flowers that people came up with. Really beautiful. Thank you guys for posting that. I also like that here it doesn't say who made this one, the one that's a different shape. Oh, Ali, there we go. So she used the same technique, right? But she started with a different shape and then did the group, but flipped. See how this one here, had she completely flipped it, had she completely, it's not a symmetrical shape like we did. So when she flipped it, she ended up with this different position. And then when you get a ton of them, suddenly this flower has movement, but it's exactly the same technique that we used with our flower that's that was symmetrical. Okay. But you get with so whatever initial shape that you start with, you get much more movement and stuff. So thank you there. Back to, okay. So this is the one that I had. Is everyone had a chance to open their files at this point? The ones that they created. If I go control minus, this is where we had that we were playing around with all our shapes. This is where we created the first one and then we changed its colors. Now, remember that we had created these flowers, or these multiple flowers. We had created them simply by copying and pasting. So it should technically be the exact same flower, making it bigger or smaller in this case. And then all we did was apply some colors from a color library. Remember? Oh, you missed the class. Got it. I can email this file to you. Did anyone else not have this? Does anyone else? I care, I'll email it to
I
you.
can't find my file. I'm actually locked out of my VDI computer right now for some reason. I just can't get it back. I had to reboot it and I can't get back in.
Okay, so let me head over and I'm gonna send you guys.
And you sent it. You just put it in the text.
Thanks.
Yeah,
I'm going to open this up on my computer and log into Zoom on the other one.
I'm gonna download the one that I made and I'm gonna email it to whoever right now. Okay, so raise your hand if you need me to email you this last file. I don't need to even email you the whole last file. I just need to email you, now that I think about it, really, all I need to email you is one flower. So I'm gonna open it up in my other Illustrator and break it out. I just need you guys to have one flower and I'll explain in a minute. But while that's happening, that I'm doing here on the side, oh, actually, let me just do it. I'm going to take one flower, which is my initial flower. I'm going to copy it. I'm doing it on another screen. on my personal Illustrator. So give me a sec. And paste. And okay. Save. Actually, can you all access the school files?
Question.
Because I can put it up there.
Should be able to. Yeah.
All right, so what I'm gonna do right now is I'll throw it up here in our class files. I'm gonna go to the shared drives, Illustrator shared drive, Illustrator class files. So if you guys know how to have access this area, I'm gonna put this file. Okay, sorry, I'm having to find, okay, so I just made this thing called Flower Deanna, and I put it in our class files. So if you can access the class files, that would be the best way to do it. If you can't access the class files, so for those of you who are on VDI, now it's there in the Google Drive, but for the rest of you, I can email it to you. So Lynn, Liz, you're on VDI, but you can access your VDI is what you just said. Okay.
I think I can't get in there. Yeah. It's nothing. I'm in my.
I'm gonna stop my
Google Drive, but I
share for a
think it's
second
up
because
here.
I don't want to put personal emails. So I'm gonna select, and so to Liz. Who else needs me to email it? Rashmi, you still need it? Or can you access the class files?
Thank you.
Rashmi?
If you can send it, that'll be great. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Ali, you need it?
Deanna, I have in the class files one called flowertest.ai. Is that good enough?
Yeah, whatever you would have called it, but I guess, I mean, yeah. Hold on, I'm trying to send this one to Ed. So I'm sending it to Ed, Ali, Rashmi, and Liz. Is that it? Anyone else needs it? Okay. So then here it is, and the file I'm sending you is just called flower. And I sent it to your pipelines and to a whatever personal email just popped up, but I don't know if that's the right one. So there it is. Check it's going right now. So check your emails. All right. Okay. So I sent you guys this first flower. Okay. Then what we did during class is we chose libraries. So while you guys are going and getting them, let me just give you a quick reminder about that. When you selected any flower, whatever it may be, it shows like a question mark right now. Whichever flower, whichever multiple group shape, it always shows a question mark because it can't choose one. If you choose a box with a single color, then it gives you that single color.
Carrie.
When we
Sorry, Diana, you're not sharing.
oh, thank you for reminding me. There you go. All right. So those of you, I just sent you this orange flower. Okay, for those of you who just started with my email. But all we did is we decided that we wanted more colors. And so I went into the color pattern. And do you remember about these color libraries? I'm going to make this bigger. This is the palette. And if you hold on to the very bottom right corner of it, you can make it bigger because it tends to come really small. And you can only make it bigger if there's more colors. And in my case, I had a bunch of colors. And I believe in the file that I sent you guys, now that I think about it, you only have the default setting because it's just the ones that we had with this here. And I brought in a bunch of others, right? And then I made some. So remember we made some at the end. And in this case, that last page here is the ones that we made. So if you missed that class or you didn't watch the recording, even though you've had 2 weeks, that was not a cough. That was a kind of cough this time, if you know what I mean. No, that was a cough. Then when you go into the colors, way at the very bottom, you see this little, it's supposed to be an icon of a bookshelf, right? And when you head down to that bookshelf and click on it, we found that there were many other preset colors that we could do. So say we go to fruit, foods and vegetables, for example. I'm going to click on vegetables, and here we go. A little box opens up with a whole bunch of, and I can grab it from this middle area and make it up. Whole bunches of what could be vegetable colors. And I'll say, ooh, I like all these different greens, or ooh, I like all these different blues. Or these tones over here. So you can, I don't think I have many gorgeous blues there. So I went ahead and double clicked on this little box right there on the little folder that holds it. And it kind of gets this little white selection, right? And once you double click on it, if I go now to my colors, there it is. It's been transferred to my colors. Okay, so this is just a quick little review of how we got the colors from how we got all these different colors in there. So those of you who got my flower, go ahead and do that quickly, meaning you don't have any others. So go ahead and choose your fill, go down here, and then choose any at this point. It doesn't matter. We're not going to necessarily use them, but for colors. But in here, you also have something called patterns. So remember, I just said today I was going to talk a little about gradients and patterns and other things that you can decorate things with. So, and making your own colors. So here you have something called patterns. And if you head over here, you have some basic graphic dots, lines, textures, some decorative ones, some nature ones. Now, if we go to the decorative ones, here's where you have like decorative legacy. And I believe that's where you have the ones that, here we go. Notice there's no folders here. Okay, so if I open, I don't like that you can't keep this open on its own now. So if you notice over here, if I try to bring one of these in, it's not going to come in as a whole folder. So notice here, my patterns, I have these two that come with the computer. So say that I want this one. I'm going to click on this one, double click on this one. Oh, I didn't mean to have all my textures change into that. So I'm going to say Control Z because I didn't mean to have that selected. Let me go over here to the last box and make a little box. And so here comes this pattern that I just brought in. And how did I bring it in? Just by double clicking. And where does it go? It just sits on its own. I test it. I test it. I test it. I test it. Okay, so I can see the ones that I want. And then when I look in here, each one of these is popping in. See? Boom, 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 boom. It's individual. So since they're not a folder, they're coming in at the bottom of all my my default set. Okay, so I'll keep going and say that I end up with this one. All right, so that's how you bring anything that's not a whole group in. Or if I went to these vegetables again and decided that I only wanted maybe that yellow, right? If I just want that yellow, so once again, I've got all these different colors. If I just want that yellow and not the whole thing, that one, if I double click, nothing's happening. It's not like the patterns. It's not coming in. Or this lavender blue. I choose this one and I double click and I double click and it's just not happening, right? Well, in this case, it's already there in that group, but if this were a different group, it wouldn't be there. Let me just go to a different group so you can see it doesn't. This one's kind of interesting, the scientific one, because it shows you analogous colors, complementary colors, slip complementary, so different kinds of choices. But say that I go to one of these and try to bring in, these are the basic ones. Let me give it a different set. Nature tones, foliage. Okay, so say I want this red, this orangey red. This is when it becomes harder, because if I don't want the whole set, how do I bring in the same one color? Well, once I choose something that color, that's where we created these colors, right? So everyone go choose a color that you don't have, you don't own. Maybe this mint green, for example, is for sure not in any of the default palettes. I know there's no like mint green kind of thing. So I'm going to choose that one just so you guys can clearly see what I'm going to do. So how do I make it into a palette? If I want to keep it, if I want to remember it, I have to go down here to the plus sign and create it as a new swatch. So last week we created these 4, you created your own colors, but created 4 new colors that then I put in a group, which are those there that have that little white kind of bottom white triangle. So what's up with those ones with the white triangle? Is it because I made them? Nope. So watch, I'm going to make a new swatch. So make a new color, grab one of these, which you didn't make, but you just use it. And click on the new swatch. How did I get that new swatch? Go to the fill, down to the bottom, that little plus sign, make a new swatch. And here is where I'm going to move this out of the way a little bit here. And so here's where I played around with the colors last week to create new colors, because I moved these around, and remember we gave them a name. But the most important thing here is this little, not the most important thing, but what made that little white triangle show up is the fact that global color was selected. So if your global color is selected and you say, okay, right now, so I'm going to give this one a name, mint green or something like that. And I say, okay to that. Now I've created a new swatch. See how it went to sit right there? Because it's not in a group. It's just an individual color. And it's called, if I hover over it, it's called mint green. And it has that little tiny triangle. Now I'm going to make that same color. I'm going to make a new swatch. And I'm going to turn off the global. Okay, and I'm going to call this one mint green, not global, only because I want to show you the difference. It's the same one. And the only difference is that I did not leave the global check mark on. And I'm going to say, okay. So here's the same color in global and not global. Okay. See how it does now, just looks like a regular default box, which goes to show that none of these colors are global. That little white thing just means it's global. And the ones that we made last week, at least the ones I made, because I made it with a default setting, was global. So let me explain now the difference between global and non-global colors. First of all, I'm going to make sure that everyone has imported some groups. And this you would have done last week, but for the people who just did it, hopefully you double clicked on a couple of these. I'm going to go and double click on this one, which is like green, 2 greens, a yellow and another green. Now I double clicked on it. And if I do that, here we go. Double click, you have to make sure that it goes white. And then now it's come in. Okay, so that's how you do that. So hopefully you all brought in 2 or 3. Doesn't matter if they're pretty or not right now. It's not the goal. And then hopefully you've chosen one and created 2 swatches, a global and a non-global of the same color. And now we can close this little set. Is everyone with me? Okay, so if I lost you,
You lost me on how to create the global and non-global.
okay, so when you choose a color, choose any color that you have, it doesn't matter, and call it a plus. And global would be with this checked, non-global is with this not checked. And then you say okay, and that's how you create the color. So if you say okay when this is unchecked, that's that's not global, which is all of these colors. If you say okay with this checked, then you get that little triangle at the bottom, and that's global. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
so that's when you said how do you create them, that's the only difference. I check or don't check that. Now I haven't explained yet what global color is versus a non-global color. Right now I'm just showing you how to make them. And now we're going to go and practice with them. Okay, so so does everyone have two new colors at least, and hopefully a few more from last week, but if not, at least these two new colors and a bunch of different patterns. So let's go back to the flower that we have. So for some of you guys, you only have one flower. For some of you guys, you have more. So if you only have one flower, select it, copy it because it's a whole group. So you can do a Control or Command C to copy it. And then let's head over here and make this time a new file. So let's say File, New. And then we'll just say, in my case, I've created the 5x5 many times. So although the most basic thing it wants to create is a letter file, the custom 5x5 is the one we've been working with. So it's right next to the basic one. I'm going to go ahead and say that. But if you don't have that setting there, then just go over here and change it to a 5x5. And then just let's go ahead and create a few artboards here. So we're going to be doing a lot of different tests here. So I'm going to create 4 different artboards just from scratch. That way I don't have to be creating them one each time. All right. And then we're going to say create. And because I created them all at the beginning, they come out in this cute little pattern instead of one next to each other, but they're basically still 4 artboards. So now, before you do anything, because remember that I told you guys to copy this flower, right, from this document. Now, before you do anything, if you go over here and create a box and you go see the colors, this is a new document. And what colors do you see?
The default colors.
The default set of colors, right? Which is the basic set up here. Then you have these 3 little gradients, 4 gradients, and then you have these 2 patterns. Okay. And then you have a whole box of grayscale. And then this one, which are the basic 100, green, red, blue, orange, purple. It's like a default set of basics. So these are little groups. Okay. So how do you bring all from this other file? I had all these wonderful colors in here. It's like, how do you move these over there? Because this was a question asked at the end by Ed last week. It's, do all the colors stay with you? No, no. As soon as you bring a new file, or if you were to open another file that's already been created, it will have its own colors, whatever colors came with that file. The basic new file or any file only keeps its own colors. So if I really, really wanted to bring in all the colors from before, now this flower that I sent you guys in the email, this one was created with the basic set of colors. It was not created with any of, it was created before I brought in any new colors. So watch, I went to the new one. Let me get rid of this little box. Select it and get rid of it again, and then just paste this flower that we just brought in. I'm going to do paste and bring it in. And when I do that and I head over here, nothing new has happened because this flower was created with the original colors, with the default set colors. I believe I used all of these little oranges from here. So nothing has happened. Now, if I go back to my grouped flowers, right, and choose any of these others, and I remember that you guys don't, you other guys don't have it. So go to the original flower now. So for those of you who just got only this flower, go to that original flower go to fill. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna choose an entire set of these. So I'm gonna, and this is something I did again at the end of last week. I'm gonna say that I want to paint this flower in this last pass set of foliage colors that I've got. So I'll double click. So I've got my flower selected, and now I'm gonna just double click this box here. And a box that last week I just said, just say okay to it, pops in, called recolor artwork. But notice that's what's happened is that my colors have been replaced. So I'm going to cancel that again. This is the set that I'm choosing to use. You guys can choose whatever set you want. And I'm going to undo that. All I did was select my flower, my existing flower. Okay. And then I have gone to my colors and double clicked on the group that I want to use. Double click. That's what I've done. And this recolor artwork has shown up. Last week, I didn't show you much at all about this box. All I said is say okay to it. Okay. I just said say okay to it. So go ahead and say okay to it. And I'm going to show you today a little bit more about that box. So now your flower has been recolored with this set of colors. Now, copy it, say Control C or Command C. And now let's walk over to the new one where those colors don't exist. And here, let's just paste. Oh, I didn't do a good copy, did I? Oh, because I'm on the VDI. I copied with a Command C. Control C for VDI. And let's paste, Control Command V. Now that I brought this flower with all these colors, look what happens if I go to the color swatches. Hello?
Nothing happens.
No, that's bizarre. That's bizarre. What do you mean nothing happened? That's the way to bring colors in. Hello? Control copy. That's what we've done all our lives. As I show you that the quick, there's other ways to bring in colors, but this is the sneaky, what the? I love it when Illustrator changes something or the settings are off. The easiest way to move colors around is precisely to just copy paste to shape. And then all the colors pop in. That's bizarre. Okay. I'm going to go over to, these are colors that I created last week. So I'm going to select these 5 boxes of colors that we created. Copy. And paste. The colors that we created came over, but not all of them, because this mint green didn't come over. That's interesting. You know what's happening? This mint green I didn't create. It was also one that I picked, that I made. We made it today. We made the swatch today, but we made it based off of a color from one of the libraries. Versus these, I actually created these colors last week from scratch. And when I bring these over, they did stay. Okay, that's a new behavior, because before you could just copy any colors, whatever they were, and the whole set of colors would pop in as colors, not as a group, but all the colors would pop in. You would just bring any colors that you wanted in that way. Now it's only bringing in my user defined colors. How interesting. Okay, well, you learn new settings and new behaviors. This has been how it's worked for hundreds of years, but for some reason, that's the thing, you know, what Ed was saying, they keep changing certain things, and sometimes there's things they can't change, but then there's others that are behaviors that for some reason make more sense that they change. Okay, so let me explain it away then. So now that I know what happened, I can explain it away. For those of you who didn't do these colors last week, these are colors that we created. And I think you guys all created one or two, but in case you don't have them, let's go ahead and make a few that are our own defined colors. So in this case, it was these that I defined last week. So let's just, and this one is the one that I made today. I'm just putting it over here because this one I made today, but I didn't really make it. Remember I said, choose one of the colors from the libraries and make it, versus these were actually made by ourselves. So these three that we made ourselves in this case is what transferred, even though you have a bunch of different stuff here. I'm going to delete the different colors, and it's really these four. But notice that the only ones that transferred right there are the top ones. So let me go ahead and show you guys how to make a color of your own. So for those of you who didn't make your own colors, now you're going to make your own colors, and then we're going to transfer them. And so make a box, any box. I have already a box made here. And you can, oh, there's so many different ways of making colors, but one of the ways, let's start with a color that you already have. Choose a color that's one of the colors that exists. Looks like I keep choosing the same one to start with. Choose a color that already exists, right? And then you go, yeah, it's okay, but I'd like it to be a bit more purpley, a bit more. So this is just modifying a color, okay? So choose a color that already exists and go, yeah, I want to change it. So then you double click its box, double click the box size, and how you get all the options to change this one. Just like it's the same box as when we tried to make our own. That's what this is. And you can move these sliders around and add more of something. By the way, if you want to see the results in other than in this tiny little box, like over here, you see I'm turning it purple, but you can also say preview, and then you start seeing it right there, which makes much more sense. So this is how we started. And now I'm going to add more purple to this one, and I'm going to make it a bit lighter, and I'm going to place it. Now this is a bit of a hard way to make a color if you don't understand that much about color theory or CMYK, because you need to know how to move these sliders. So although that works, which is fine, let's go ahead and call this one whatever, purplish. You guys make whatever you made and call it something. I didn't make a new color. All I did was modify the existing color. So remember, this was this bright killer pink. I have modified it. Okay, so that's what that happened. That's how one way to create a color that's your own. The other way, well, modify an existing color. The other way, if you actually click a swatch to make a new swatch to start with, right? Then you make your own version of something. What seems to be missing here is to be able to see what you're making. Okay, so right now you've just got this tiny little box to make it with. Let's say that you're happy with that little box and you just want to create whatever you created. I've created a little bit of an olive-ish. Again, I'm going to call it olive-ish. And notice that I'm making all of these non-global. I'm going to explain in a minute what global is or isn't, but right now just keep making them non-global. I'm going to say, okay. Now that is a new one. That actually got created as a new color. You see that? So here's the one that I had that used to be bright pink that I modified. And now here's the one that I actually created because I said I wanted a new swatch. Okay. Now there's a better way of creating colors, which is using this color mixer. I'll make another box. I'm going to go over to fill, and this time I'm going to use the color mixer. Because here at least you can see this whole box down here, and you can say, oh, I want that, or I want this, or I want here. So you're not guessing so much at what the colors might be. right? So I'm going to create a little pale-ish green. All right. And then I still need to go back to swatches to be able to turn this into a new color. Okay, so this let me choose easily a new tone, or more easily than when I was moving sliders around. But then my make a new swatch doesn't show up here. So I need to go back to swatches, and then I click on the plus, and then I call this one, I don't know, pale green. Of course, I explained to you the back and forth of naming colors, a color, but I'm going to call this pale green, and I'm going to say, okay. And now I have a new color down here. If I hover over, it's pale green. So that's creating new colors. There's one last way of creating a new color. So this one we modified from pink to 2 tones of greens. This one we created from scratch using this box by going over here and using this little guy. Okay. And then we had to come back here and make a plus sign out of it. Stop me if you're having any questions. But then the last way, select this box, is to head over, and it's a little bit blocked for those of us who have VDI. There's this tab in front of it. You got to ignore that tab, and if it opens up, just close it again by clicking on that little box. But for me, it's that box right there, which if you double click, it's the color picker, and it's the same color picker you have in Photoshop. So it's that box here on your tool. So double click there. And then over here, you have many more choices to how to make a color. This is if you want the granddaddy of making colors. Now, what do I mean by that? Here you can choose them with much more certainty and accuracy, but also you can choose to make a color by the numbers. So let me explain that. Up until now, you cancel that. These choices, when you said plus, only gave you this CMYK setting. Now, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black are going to work if you're making a color that you're going to print. But if you, and this whole document, because we were choosing print as our preset, is set up in CMYK. So that's the color that you're making. If you switch over here, notice that you can make them in RGB and HSB and lab and grayscale and web safe RGB. Now, those names that you're seeing there are the same ones that exist over here. HSB, RGB, CMYK. Actually, lab is not showing up here, but no one uses it anymore. This is hexadecimal color. So let me explain. When you are going to be doing things that are going to be only for screen, all you need is RGB colors, which are red, green, and blue. So the fact that these are all together make it a bit confusing, but really you can call a name. These are different ways of defining color. Imagine, and I'm just going to say that in real life, if you know how to speak 3 languages, you can call a color green, or you can call it verde in Spanish, or you can call it vert in French. It's all green. It's just different languages to define a color, right? This is similar, only that they're actually different color theories, but or systems. We're going to end up with the same color, but in HSB, which is hue, saturation, and brightness, that's the definition of this green. In RGB, red, green, and blue, a combination of colors of light, 92, 145, or 143 of RGB gives you that color. In CMYK, 67% of cyan ink, 29% of magenta ink, 43 of yellow, and 3 of black gives you that green. And this weird little number here is for code in HTML. If you were to create a website and you want to define the background being that green, you can use these colors too, but the typical way of defining it is with this hexadecimal number. So if you were to create a different number here, I'm going to just go ahead and type 3 other things here. I'm going to go 6, 7, and 8. Oh, sorry. I hit the return key. I said 6, 7, and 8. And it's change. It's not a different enough change. So let me go with 9 over there. It's beginning to change over here. If I go ahead and say I want, so that's what that decimal is. If I go over here, instead of 156, I say only 5, and I move to another one, that's what that is. So any of these numbers that I change, if I were to say instead of 83 cyan, I want only 8 cyan, then when I move into another tab, the color has changed. So this is just different ways of defining the color. Now, most of us don't know how to say, oh, I just want another, I want 30% of yellow, and have the slightest idea of what that's going to mean. But we can, with our eyes, look at this and go, oh, I didn't want this weird little pinkish peach thing. I was hoping for a bright pink. So it's easiest to go over here, which is the tall column, choose a general idea of the color you want. So say that you want a purplish. You can move this up and down, or you can click, 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 or you can drag up and down. And this changes. And then when you get to, okay, that's about the greenish that I want, but I don't want that pale version. I want this one. So then you start clicking around in here. So here you choose the general idea of the color that you're looking for. So that's the hue. Okay. And so if you look at all these numbers changing, and then in this box, you can choose what you want to do with the brightness or the saturation, which in a way it's hue, saturation, and bright, which is these 3 top choices, right? So if the hue is this tone of blue-ish, then if I go all the way from top to bottom, I'm making it lighter or darker, lighter or darker. That's up and down. And if I go right to left, I'm making it more saturated and less saturated. I'm taking color away. So saturation is different than making it lighter. Okay, so this is still full color, but a very bright version of it and a very dark version of it. Okay, and then to the left, it starts losing color until it becomes gray. And to the right, it gets as saturated as it can get until it becomes much more intense. Okay, right to left, it's intensity, top to bottom is brightness. So once you choose a color this way, say that's the color you end up choosing, right? The numbers, if you were to go to a website and say, I want the website to be designed that way, you would tell your web designer, use that color, and you would just paste that number in, and that color will pop up. Or if someone's doing RGB, you would go 87, 152, 201. If they're using CMYK, we'd go 66, 29, 50. So those are all different ways of defining that same color. Does that make sense? It's like each one of these is a different language for that color, right? Now, choose a color now, a color, whichever color you've decided to choose, and say, okay. So here's the color I've chosen. That still does not make it a swatch in Illustrator. It's just a chosen color. If I want to make it a swatch, because I want to use it for my logo or for my stationery or for my flower, now I open up this box and I click the plus sign, and now I give it a name, or I can leave it in its swatch name. In this case, is going to be by default the CMYK colors this week, CMYK names, or I can call it my blue or whatever you want to call it. Now, the reason I said last week it's a problem to call things mint green or my blue or whatever is that what if I then decide to modify it? I open it up and I modify it over here and it turns into pink. So suddenly the name my blue doesn't make sense, right? But anyway, I'm going to not modify it and leave it blue. All right, so now I've created a lot of my own colors. All these colors that are mine that I've created, if I select these 3 and copy them, control copy, and I go to my new and paste these in, now they will all come in. What the? It's only bringing in global colors. This is the
Mine
most
came in.
bizarre.
Mine came in.
They have to come in. I don't
Yeah.
understand why they're not coming in. This is bizarre. Always had these colors do this, but so I don't, so but yours came in. So I'm sure, is it a VDI thing?
Oh, I'm sorry, they copied. I'm sorry. Let me check if they actually are in the field. No,
Let
not in
me,
the field.
they're not.
Probably a VDI thing.
No, they're not on the field. I mean, I mean,
They're not in here. They didn't come in as a swatch.
no.
Okay, which is fine. I was going to teach you the other way to do it, but this is bizarre. That's okay. That's okay. I was going to teach you a different way to do it anyway. There's two ways to do it, the old fashioned way and the new one, which is using the libraries, but VDI, we don't have libraries. So here's the deal. Maybe because everyone's using libraries now, they stopped having this effect where the easiest way to bring a bunch of colors was to paste them in. That's what I've always shown people. Hey, if you really want to bring in a bunch of colors, just paste them in again. But anyway, now you know how to make colors. I'm going to come back here to do some more. But
Hey,
say that-
Diana, just a question. So
yeah.
now that we made those colors, can we put them like in its own folder?
Yeah, so that's what I'm going to show you now.
Okay.
So let's go back to where we made the colors, right? When you choose a color, these come in. And here's what we're going to do. So last week we made a folder. These are the colors that I had made last week, but in case you don't have that, let's go ahead and select. This is a color I made today. Whoops. I really want to, I'm going to make a new box because I don't want to change the colors visually. So I'm going to be able to, this is a color I made today. I'm going to hold down the shift key. This is a color I made today. This is the color I made, not shift, sorry, command or control. This is the one I made, this I made today, that I made today. So I'm holding the command for the Mac, for the PC, for the PC it's control, for the Mac is the command key. So those are all colors I just made, okay? This was the olive green, this was the mint green, this was the blue. So I've selected all those colors. And I'm going to go down here and make a little group. Pink. And I'm going to call these Diana's colors. And I'll say, okay. But notice that it says selected swatches. Okay. So I'm going to say, okay. Another way to create a group. So there's my group. Diana's colors if I hover over it. And here I had my business colors was one I had made last week. See? Another way to create color swatches is to go in and select, say I select, say I select, doing my shortcuts the wrong way again. Say I select all of these, which is a ridiculous amount of colors, but just to go quick. And then I say new group from selected artwork. Okay. So then I can, this is going to be all my flowers from selected artwork. Don't convert to global, include swatches for tints because some of these were tints and we'll say, okay. So look at that humongous group that I've got going here. All the different colors that I've created in the past. But this new version of properties that I don't have the swatches available all the time. I always have to select something to see my swatches, which drives me crazy, but here we go. Right? So I've created 3 new groups. I have the group with Diana's colors, the one that I created last week with all these grouped colors, process colors, and then this new one that I selected, just a bunch of my flowers, which in a way, they're little bits and pieces of all of these. And then those are the colors that I have. Okay. Now, does everyone have at least one new group with the colors that you just created? Yeah. I'm going to clear all
Diana?
the back. Yes.
Crossover question again. So inside Photoshop, we're on the swatches over on the left-hand side, and I can pick colors and stuff. But is there a way to actually save them into this type of environment or not?
Yeah. So I'm going to show you that in a minute.
Okay.
So up until now, the easiest way was what I just said, would you just copy all these things and move them over here? And then in the past, okay, you could just then go, you could look at all of these and go, great, I have all my colors here. Basically, all these colors that I brought in would come in, and then you can just delete the shapes and then start using those colors because they had already been created. But that isn't copying over. So the second way to do this was to create your own colors. So let's go ahead and click on this fill. And I'm going to select, this is Deanna's colors. Does everyone have the one that you made, your own colors? All right. Head down here. So select a group. Head down here. And what we're going to do is we're going to save these swatches. So once again, I'm going to, you can also do it by selecting the artwork, or you can do it just by having a color that you're a group that you've created. So I'm going to have a group that I've created, which are these Diana's colors. Head over here and save the swatches. So it's going to ask, it's going to open up. And this is really important, especially based on what you were asking, Ed. This is saving. Okay, so here it says it's a box that pops up, and I have the PC box, you have the Mac box, it doesn't matter. Where it's saving this is internally in your computer. It's saving them inside of all those files that your Illustrator program comes in. When you install Illustrator, it comes with a bunch of different files that you never really look at. It's folders and folders in one place. It's saving swatches that you make. So you guys have nothing. I have some because every time I save some, they're coming in. So I'm going to go over here and call these.
Diana,
Yes.
when you say head over here, I'm not sure where you're going.
Okay. When you say save swatches, it opens up a window.
How do you get to save swatches?
Okay. Select your group.
Group.
Click on this little library, and the top choice is save swatches.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay.
And then your computer goes, okay, I'll save them. What I'm explaining is this place that this is where these are going to be saved is internal to your own computer. So that's a limitation. And these are available to Illustrator. And this is the answer to Ed's question. So not to Photoshop, but hold on, I'll get to your question. So if I go over here to the grouped flower, to the names, let me call this one, I'm going to leave it as grouped flower color. So I'll leave it as a grouped flower because this is the colors are created in the grouped flower file. And I say save. Okay. Now head over to this new document that we saw did not bring any of these colors in. Make a new shape. And when you try to go fill it, you can go over to the swatches and go to user defined. And under user defined, I have defined different ones over the years as I'm teaching here, not the years, the year in my Illustrator and my other classes. So here I have the grouped flower colors that I just created with you guys. So when I click on that, there's my group of colors. And these are all my group flowered, like every one of the colors that I had made in the other document. There they are, my patterns, all the different ones that I brought in, my grouped colors, including this one. So if this is all I wanted, I double click, and now I've brought them in. Okay, so when I said save, it saved all the colors that I have in here. So when I went over here all of the settings here got saved. See how they got replicated? So all of these colors got saved. And I come over here again and choose. I chose only the 4 that I had created to bring in. I'm going to go ahead and also choose this group with group colors. I'm going to double click with process colors. So if you guys made that one with the process color over here, double click on that one too. Anything that you have, sorry, global, anything that you have with a little triangle, bring it over so that we can use it as well. All right. So now I'm in my new document. I can close this. And in my new document, I have transferred from this other document only these sets. The one that I made with Diana's colors and the ones that I had called my business colors and all my group colors. So that's how I transferred them. Now, let me share with you a different screen. For those of you who are not on VDI, okay, how to do it with libraries. So now I'm showing you my Mac computers. Okay, so in my Mac computer, since I haven't been creating colors, let me go ahead and create a color really quickly or two. No, I'm going on my PC. PC tools. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to create 1 or 2 colors in here. There. And I'm going to make another one here. I'm still trying to create something that would kind of go with the flowers. Okay, so I'm just going to really quickly create these 2 as swatches. So I made 2 colors here. I'm going to go to the fill. I'm going to create it as a swatch. Bluish. I'm not being very creative with my colors, just trying to reset you up. And greenish. Okay, so I've created these 2 colors. Okay. And so they're there. Oh, I created them as global because it was the default setting. It doesn't matter if they're global or not for this example. So here I have those 2 colors. I can go ahead and say, well, let's select these plus these. So I'm selecting everything and I'm going to create a saved swatch. No, a group, sorry, a new color group out of the selected artwork. And I'm going to call these Diana's library flower, or I'm going to call it flower library or something like that. Flower colors. There we go. I'm just going to call it flower colors. I'm going to say, okay. All right. So here's Diana's flower colors. So this is equivalent to what I had done before. Okay. But there's this big difference. I'm going to head over to my libraries, which doesn't work for VDI. Okay. So hello, libraries. So I can go over here and I'm going to create a new library. And I'm going to call this one colors. If you have a colors library created already, create a colors library. Okay. And then what I can do is I can select all of this stuff. I can just drop it in there. And so the artwork got dropped in. You can also create and just drop in one patch. I'll drop one patch individually. Okay. So now I have these 2 individual ones or the whole piece of artwork.
Diana,
So, yeah.
if you were to go back to how you added swatches. So if you click on one of your colors on a fill. So pick the color, click on it. So you've got a color. Go to properties. Open the fill, go to the thing there,
I can
Save
save them in the
swatches.
library.
and it gives you it allows you to put it in the library. Does that do the same thing you just did?
This, if I do right now, if I do
No,
this
no.
right
No,
now.
if you pull down that right there where it says swatches,
Mhm.
it has a choice on it of library. You've got to hit the,
No,
at least on mine does.
no, this library is your computer library. This is the path. It goes from Deanna's Mac, Macintosh hard drives, users, Jenna. This is your personal computer's library.
Okay,
To application support, Adobe Illustrator, ENUS swatches. So that's the same place they got saved in before, which is my own computer. So library is not the Creative Cloud library. It's different.
okay. That's, I wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So let me, if I can be clearer when let me for a second, and this is on a Mac only, but it's the same idea. So if I go to my Macintosh hard drive, in my Macintosh hard drive, there's a library where there's application support, and inside of that, there's the application support, which gives me the application colors for Illustrator. So that's where it's saving. So it's this library, as opposed to this library here, which is my Creative Cloud library. You need to be signed in. And here's the deal. You can invite to this library. So say I'm collaborating with Ed on a project, I can invite him to use this library as well. So I've created the colors, I've put them in here. And this library can be accessed from Illustrator, from InDesign, from Photoshop, and from any other file. So say that I now were to create a new file. So if I'm creating, this is only for libraries. So say that I'm creating a new file, completely new, if I go into to create a new shape, what's going to happen with the colors? It's the same old default colors. But if I go to my libraries, then here are the colors from that file, that other file that I created. And I can just say, oh, I want to bring in this color. And I want to bring in this color. And then I can use these colors. So I guess that's why they're making do without being able to paste colors in, because now the idea is that people would be using their libraries now. Okay, you can have many different libraries, and this is a library that I created. These are pre-made libraries, by the way. This is my library from stuff that I've used for something else before. Okay, so these are colors that I have in my own library. This is my libraries and stuff that I've downloaded from other stuff and other places. Okay, so in here in colors, I've got these now. And now I can use these anywhere I want, including if I were to open Photoshop and I'd go to my libraries, I would find these colors. So it's not limited to just Illustrator versus, and now I'm going to change back to my VDI. Here I go. Here's my VDI versus here in which my libraries are not working. Although was it last week that oh no, they were working last week because I was signed into my own personal library, but they weren't working for other VAI users. So the whole user, I think in here I had some colors. Yeah. So here I was able to use to have some of these colors. But this is not really the same because it's colors from yeah, I don't think most of you guys can't sign in to your library because you don't have your own personal account on VDI. But for those of you who 90% of you are at home, were you able to put colors in your libraries now?
Yes, thank you.
All right, now so here we are. We have a whole bunch of different colors that we've created. Let's go ahead, and I wanted to show you gradients, and I wanted to, what time is it? Gradients, and I wanted to show you And this had fallen out. There we go. So, grab one of these flowers. I've made a couple. You can just copy paste. And remember, if you don't want to copy paste, you can also hold down the command. Oh, I'm on the PC. The Alt or Option key. And make a copy. And now I wanted to show you a little bit of that color rework color option that I told you a couple of times. Just say okay and choose it and don't think about it. Make a copy of one of your flowers. And this time we're going to be much more specific about that recolor artwork. So copy a flower, because say that you like the colors of your flowers, you don't need to change them. Copy one of them. And now, where is it up here? I always have to find it. Recolor. I'm always trying to, every time I do this, I'm gonna have to go do it the other way. I always have to look it up. Edit colors, there it is. Phew, found it. Under edit colors, recolor artwork. Okay, so this is a flower that you don't want to keep the colors that you have. So copy one because you're gonna change this. Everyone found it? All right, so I'm going to click on that. I'm going to make this a bit bigger. Okay.
Vivian, I'm sorry, can you go back? What was the menu? Oh, there is edit.
Edit colors. So there's a couple of different ways to use this. So the first way to use this is the simpler box. Down there you have advanced options. Right now I'm going to not use that. And I'm going to go ahead and grab any of these colors are being pointed to in this color wheel. See that? And it's showing you which are the main colors that you're using here. So I can just grab this color here and drag it around, and it's giving me equivalence. And when I let go, my whole flower has shifted. And I can say, well, I want it in green tones. I want it in purple tones. I want it in pinkish tones. I want it in yellowish tones. Pretty cool, isn't it? Now, as you move out, the colors are more saturated. As you move in, they're desaturated or lighter. So moving out or in.
Diana, I have a question.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
So when it is deciding what color it's going to replace it by, I understand that whatever circle you choose is that sort of the leading palette.
Yeah.
But how does it define, like what is it, because we have defined it, it automatically picks up something?
Well,
and puts that-
yeah, it's keeping the same relationship. It's just moving identical relationship along the color wheel. Now, this might work for flowers, but when you want something more specific, I'm going to show you how to be more specific now. So now you can grab just one, select one and click on it one more time. And you go, well, this one I'd rather, oh, hold on. I want to move just this one, make it darker and lighter, right? Instead of like the whole thing changing. So that's just within the same color though. Then when you actually want to define it on its own, see how here this is linked? Then you have to go, okay, I'm gonna unlink. Now you can click one and make this one be orange, this one be pink, this one be purple, this one be yellow, this one be green.
That is too cool.
You can
That's
move 'em-
great.
Move them willy-nilly and make whatever you want out of it.
Right. And
And
I
what
guess
is this?
skin tones, for trying to do skin tones, I think might
Yeah,
be a
so-
really good
so-
way to do it.
You can do it with any sets, presets. There's tons that you can do with presets or whatnot. And then you can say, oh, I like this color combo. You link it again, and then you move these around, you know, whatever, it's a choice. So this is how you link or unlink that to move only one or two around. So say that you want all different tones of purple, purplish blue, bring them all over here, a little bit of pink, a little bit more purple. So you get to choose what area or tones that you want. Okay. Now,
Diane, what's the name of this picker?
this is Recolor Artwork, and I got it from the edit. I always forget where to get it from. Now, if you hate where you've gotten, let's assume we all hate where we are because, I don't know, it's a mess. You can say reset, and it all goes back to the beginning. Okay, so for now, reset, because there's much more to this picker. I'm just kind of showing you. So the resets and it's all linked again. Okay. Oh, that's my phone telling me that it's break time.
Oh,
Thank you. All right. So right now we went to reset, right? So we're all back with what we started. Now, notice that up until now, it asked me if I had something that I wanted to use for my color library. What color library? The same one as before. What if I want to go with skin tones? You mentioned skin tones. Let's go to skin tones, for example. So here it's finding choices of skin tones. This is that color library that we had accessed before. Remember earth tones, foodstuffs, vegetables, okay? That's what that library is all about. But within that library, I also have my user-defined library, which were the group flowers that I had created, or Diana special colors. So I could just go and choose some of my colors, right? So these are colors I have used in the past or whatever, right? But let's go, since you mentioned skin tones, that's a good one. Let's go to skin tones.
Mhm.
All right. And then we can go and move these around in or out. But I don't know anyone with that color of skin, but yeah, I guess we went a little bit too neutral, too light. All right. So then that's one way to do that. Or I'm going to reset. I can not go to color libraries. I can go over to when you click over here in auto colors. No, I'm not going to. No, I'm going to teach you that one later. I'm going to choose you that in advanced options. The other option I have is you can just say change color randomly or change saturation and brightness randomly. So you just kind of click on that and things just change. And you just see what the computer wants. This one I use the least because why would I want, I don't know, computer making choices for me somehow. This one's always been a little bit weird to just like each time you click, it'll make your choices different. Well, maybe you'll find something. I'm going to reset. The next one that I want to show you is if you go to your color theme picker, color theme picker.
Mhm.
You turn it color theme picker. You turn it on. Sorry, each time you click it, you get a what's this thing called?
Eyedropper.
Eyedropper. Thank you. You get a thing.
Ding ding.
Then you can just choose. Maybe there's other colors. We don't happen to have other colors here, but you can choose other colors to click on. You can click on this and you, I lost my eyedropper. So if I had other colors, I don't know, do I have a color in here? Maybe I'll choose these blues from there, or I'll choose these greens. Okay, so you have to have something else in the place. I have this yellow. So you choose colors from something else in your document, and that's what I came up with. So I'm going to reset. Let me show you that again. The color theme picker it's not letting me choose from my own document, from my own thing. I'm gonna go command minus minus because this is the color theme that I have. See how it says no, forbidden, but I can move to any other color that I have and click on it, and then it gives me those colors. Now, in this case, if I go to these, which are different tones, I get those tones, okay? But if I choose one only, then the whole thing, the only reason I have some difference here when I choose each one of these, because remember that I had some transparency. Those of you who, when I made this flower, one of my layers is transparent, so I'm getting that choice, but it's really one color with more or less transparency. Okay,
Diana,
so that would be me choosing, but say you have a photograph here of wildflowers, right? And you choose you choose that, and then all of this will pick up from there. Yes, Liz, or was it Liz who asked?
yeah. So you know how like in the color picker or on the, I'm sorry, gradients, like you can add points.
Yeah,
Um,
not yet here, not yet here.
Okay.
We're gonna go, plus I haven't explained gradients, we'll do that after break, so not yet
Oh.
here. You can't add a color in this one. Remember, there's advanced options, but here you can't, you can't change anything yet. Let me, Tadia,
Yes, this recolor artwork looks completely different.
are you in this mode?
Yes,
Is this what yours is looking like?
yes.
Okay, so you're in the advanced mode, and all you did was see edit colors, recolor artwork, and you don't get this little one. Let me see how you go from the advanced option. We're almost done with this
It
one.
just gives me that one.
This is what you get, right?
Yes.
I'm trying to figure out how to go back from this one to the simpler one, and I don't know once you're in here how to get back to the simpler one. Edit, I don't know. We're gonna get into this one. It's like a little version of that. So don't worry, we're about to get into that, so that's okay.
Oh, actually, now I found it.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. So this is just like the quick version of the recolor artwork. One more thing that I haven't shown you yet, and then we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll come to the bigger one, is that you can actually click here and make like lighter or darker kind of choices, right? Because here you're stuck. I'm going to hit reset. You're stuck with this set of colors, but also this this tonality of it. But what if you want these colors, but you just want them all a little bit darker, right? So you can move that here. You can
Okay.
move over to the really dark. So that's just kind of within the same colors, but you want them all lighter or all darker. Let me hit reset again. I'm trying to hit reset again so that we always have something to come back to, so that it's got some logic. And then if you hover, so this is the that's what we're choosing, color saturation. The other one is lightness or darkness. Sorry, saturation or intensity. Okay. So this gives me from really desaturated colors. Let me just move up again. There we go. So I go to real desaturated colors to extremely intense colors. And then this brings me darkness to lightness. Okay.
Okay.
So these are the two choices, darkness to lightness, or so I can go darker but desaturated, right? And then I ended up with almost the skin tones that the other one calls for. Okay, so that's just all you can do in this mode. I'm going to hit reset. Let me actually just show you a little bit the recolor artwork, and then we'll go on break and you guys can play with it during break. So let's head now to the advanced options. And the advanced options now is the box that Tadia has been getting. And this is the one that in the past I told you guys, oh, just say okay really quickly when you guys hit a box. But this is interesting because here you get to assign colors yourself. So if the current color is this one, right? Then you can double click here and say, invent something totally different. I want this to be, you know, lavender pink. And you say, okay. So now you are assigning the colors. Okay, Rashmi, this is a little bit, someone was asking me
No, someone asked me if you could add new colors. That's not adding new colors. This is recolor what you have. So this is the recolor artwork, right? So you're changing the tonality. So you're saying all of the, let me leave that orange the way it is, but anything that was deep purple, I'm going to click on that. And you can also, so this time you either double click to get the full on box, or you can click on this arrow and it gives you choices, tints and shades. But in this case, I want to change it to, I don't know, a green. Let me go to a green. And that was, oh, that was the little button in the middle. I wasn't clear what that little button was. The red. I'm going to make this one some tone of blue. Different purple. I know. My break thing keeps telling me it's break time. Anyway, so here I'm making my choices. Okay. Versus letting those boxes disappear. Now it's not that different than moving those little things around on their own, but that gives you your choice. But there's presets. You can decide to have color harmony, which is similar to when we were moving around. So anyway, that's how you do individual colors, right? So say that you created a whole, now to be more specific, this flower, who cares what colors it is? A flower can have any colors, but say you created a logo, a 3-colored logo, and people are like, well, every part you put this logo in, we decided we don't want it to be blue, red, and green. We want it to be blue, red, and brown. So you need to grab all of the greens and turn them all into browns, right? So you come over here and you only choose the greens and you turn them to brown without affecting everything else, right? Little things like that. So that think about more practical uses. You can also decide that you want to change it to one of the colors that you've created. So you can say, I'm going to have the orange become this green. So this is colors that you've saved. Right? Or you want this one to become sunflower yellow. Anyway, so that's that's that little teensy dot that I have in the middle. Or you can go for like 2 or 3 color harmony, which is the computer making choices. I'm going to go with color harmony. And that again is similar to when we were swirling the little, oh, here you go, Tadia. I see the box says open advanced recolor artwork dialog on launch. So if you had this clicked on, instead of getting that smaller version, you're going to get the big version. If you unclick it, you're going to get that small version we had before. Okay, I see there that choice. That's probably what it was. So here you get that, you get choices selected for you. 3-color harmony, you're going to choose a library to use with this. If you say no, it'll just go for its own 3-color harmony. So this is it choosing for you, right? Just 5 colors, 2 colors. Anyway, so play around with all these settings. You get to a place where, you know, there's just so much you can do with it. You can also choose to edit a color and you go back to that little window that we had before. You can choose one color, unlink it. Is it unlinked? And then decide to make only that one change. And then when you're done with all the different choices, you just say, okay. No, because here I changed some of these colors. Do I wanted to change those? I'm going to say, no, I didn't want to change those. I just wanted to change this flower. And there we go. I end up with whatever I ended up. So notice that it didn't matter if it was grouped or not grouped or whatever it was. I just, whatever had been selected in this color, it was, in this case, it was the whole group, was what I played with. Now, oh, there I go. By the way, I found the easy click for the recolor artwork in this new properties panel that I kind of hate, but now for some things I hate it less. There it is. There is the choice to recolor. Clicking on that instead of having to go to edit, there it was. All right. Now, I think you can do a lot of what we did in the other one here. You can choose a color and make it more. Oh, and you can also hear, oh, another thing I like about this one, you can tell what to prioritize. So here I have less of one, more of the other. I want more of this one. I want less of that one. Just make things, which is the prominent color. So
But you can't add another like click
no,
on the
because
bottom of that color.
this is recolor. So
Uh-huh.
recolor means it's colors that already exist get turned into different else things. So here
So
we're
there
not
would be
choosing-
more, if we had something that had 20 colors, there'd be 20 points.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
Okay, okay. I
Yeah,
see.
so I'm gonna say
Okay.
cancel and say that I choose all of this artwork. Can I recolor all of this? Edit, edit colors, recolor artwork. So look at all the points that I have
Okay.
here.
Gotcha.
And if I go into the advanced options, I have all of these colors
Mm-hmm.
that I can recolor.
Perfect.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So it's what you select. It's the colors that you've chosen to work with. I was working only within those flowers, but if you have more flowers, you choose more colors.
Got it. Totally understand.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now over here, I have a whole bunch of choices that I can also go with that are more technical, like shades of the same tone or contrast of the tones or pentagram or stuff like that, triads, just different color theories, complementaries, et cetera, et cetera. All right, I'm going to cancel. Play around with this. You guys can explore more. We're going to work with other. This is very useful and practical, but I'm going to keep working on different tools that we have. So let's take our break. What time is it? 10:55. So let's take our break until 11:10 a.m. 15 minutes. There we go. All right. So see you guys in 15 minutes. I'm gonna go eat a lozenge or whatever, suck on a lozenge. Okay. Take care. See you in 15. Oh, hi, that's a nice way to welcome you guys with a big old cough. Welcome back to the dulcet sounds of cough, cough, cough. All right. Everyone back. I'm only seeing a couple of faces. Robert, Dorothy, and Ed. Right, guys, believe it or not, it is time for continuing with our class. Okay, so share my screen again. Go ahead and have some fun with this tool that I showed you, and put some stuff up on the Padlet when you make a new shape and make some different options of it. Okay, now I'm sorry. Some warm tea in that mug. My husband heard me coughing, it made me. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to work on how to create. First, I want to show you the global color versus process color, and then how to create some gradients. So here we have an example of, so everyone, if you don't have another window, another empty page, please make an empty page. Okay. And what we're going to do now is go ahead and make one box. It doesn't matter what color you make it, just whatever color is there's going to be there. Oh, but yeah, no, make sure that the color that you're making it is not a global color. So is this one a global color? Choose one of the original colors. That's the easiest way to make sure that it's not a global color. If not, choose one of the ones that you know, like this one was one that I made my blue that is not a global color. Okay. All right. Now, go ahead and hold down the Alt or Option key. Make sure to have your selection tool set up. Alt or Option key, and make three copies of this box, or 2 copies. Make 3 total, 2 copies. So this is the same exact box, and I'm gonna zoom in a bit more, be more clear about what we're doing. Just make a box, make sure it's a process color. So if you don't know the one you chose, the process color, then actively choose color and choose one of the ones that does not have a triangle. Okay. Now, copy that down. And this time, go to the color and choose a color that you do know is a process color. Like in this case, I do know that when there's a process color, because it's a global color, I'm sorry, because it has a little triangle. So that is a global color. And then copy that one 3 times. And I'm doing this by pulling out from the Option or Alt key. And at the same time, I was holding down my Shift key to give it, constrain it to the same spot. Okay, so these 3 are filled with process color. These 3 are filled with global color. Is that pretty clear? All right, give me a yes if you've all done this and you've got this set up. I don't want to leave anyone behind. I haven't used the yes nos for a while, and I think it's getting rusty. Go down to the emojis, the reactions, to give me yeses. All right, getting lots of yeses. Okay. All right. So here we go. What we're going to do now is we're going to say, I didn't really like this tone of blue that I got here. So I'm going to edit this color. And this is process, right? So I'm going to remember how to edit the color. I'm going to go to my box. I'm going to choose the color. I'm going to double click on it. And then I'm going to say, I'm going to edit it. So I'm going to make it much more purpley. And then I'll say, okay. And that's the new color. Did everyone edit their color? Did it work? I just want you to go and edit your color. I'm going to clear our feedback to give me yeses again. All right, now I'm going to go to my process color and I'm going to go, I didn't really like that color. And I'm going to go and click on that color and I'm going to double click on the one that's I'm using, and I'm going to edit that one, and I'm going to turn this one into a bit more orangey, sunflowerish. And I'm going to say okay, and you can always have previewed, which is better, but I'm going to say okay to that one, and I click away. What happened? If you're looking at my screen, I should have said look at my screen. What happened there? What was the difference between
The two other boxes change colors.
So the process color, all it did was change the color itself. But everything else that was painted with that process color didn't change, versus the global color. When I changed the color, anything painted with that color changed. If I go back to other places where I had painted with that green, I don't know if I have it anywhere in this one, probably not. I left it in the other one. Then those would have changed too. So when you use a process color, if I click on this one here, I'm going to get the old color back. If I click on this one, I've got that new version back. See? If I have, what's the point of a process color versus a global color is this works, imagine, as you would have expected any color to work. When you change it, it changes, but it doesn't go and change the rest of your artwork. In the same document, if I go to this global color and just say that I've made a logo, presented it to my client, loved it, said, great, okay, put it in that 10-page catalog. So I put it in every bottom of every page of my 10-page catalog, right? Is going to have that little sunflower colored logo. And I turn it in and she goes, ooh, you know what? Right now, I would like that logo to be blue. So if it had been with the process color, I'd have to go to every single place I put that logo and change it from blue to, purple or whatever. But in this case, I can just go, oh, that's easy. So imagine that this blog is on page 10, this is on page 11, the other blog is on page 25. So basically I have this element repeated in 20 different places. I can just go to the color, edit the color, make it some tone of blue, because they decided they wanted blue instead, or teal, whatever. I'll say okay, and boom, all 10 pages of my catalog or 250 pages of my book are now going to change. Does that make sense? I'm looking at, there's constantly places where elements get repeated, and I'm just, I always have the, this is a textbook that I use for one of my classes, and this is a perfect example. Let me switch, stop my share. You can see anything. I didn't turn on my internal light today. So here's an example. This is a book that each chapter has got these color markings here, right? Can you imagine if I finished designing this book and someone goes, ooh, let's change all of these blue lines here to red. And I've got those blue lines 85 times. As long as I did it in global color, I changed my color and that blue changes all across the board. Does that make sense?
That is pretty convenient.
Yeah, so you need to decide when you need one or the other. Remember that I had you guys open this Tory file for a second. Where was it? The bird. Anyway, I'm trying to find it by name again. Here it is. This bird thing that I had you guys open. This was a, I think, 32-page book or something like that.
Can you show your screen?
Oh, thank you. This was a 32-page book or something like that. And the color of sky that they had chosen was not printing well. And I learned my lesson because we had to change that sky 32 times, like go and select each page and change it and change it and change it. And when we printed it, they didn't like it. So what I did is I went and changed them. I made it a global color, changed all the skies again to that one global color. And from then on, every time that they changed their mind, I went, and this bird appeared many, like different characters appeared many times, right? Like the bird flies and swoops over a turtle, the turtle then appears somewhere else, and then the snake and whatnot. So what I did is I changed everything to global colors so that every time that character got a change in one page, it changed across the whole thing. So someone here was working on children's books, right? Is it Charlene? So if you need to have consistency across the board, because the character's t-shirt is one color of red or one color of green, then you're going to want global color. Does that make sense? And then, yeah, if you clearly want the bird to look different in different situations, then you have to take that global color off, and in that case change it. But when you want consistency, which in this case you want consistency, global colors were the salvation. So anyway, I'm going to undo that last change. Versus if you colored with process, you're on your own. Each one has to be, set up and changed differently. All right. So that was just my distinction between process color and global color. So for the most part, you probably want to stick with process colors unless you're creating an element that's going to be used repeatedly. And then you want to have an element that's used repeatedly, that there's high chances that it's going to need to change color at some point, then you want to go with global colors. And you can distinguish them easily because they have this little triangle, so they are different than the rest. Most of the rest ends up being normal. All right. So let's create. So now.
Wait, I'm sorry. Which one had the little triangles? The globals?
Global. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So the one that looks a bit different, so to say, is the one that's the global, which is that little triangle. Then the norm, they don't normally come as global colors. But I did notice that at least in the VDI setup, when you create a new color swatch, it did have the global clicked on, but I don't know if it had the global click on because I had used it on global that time I was teaching it or not. I don't know the default. So those of you who created a color for the first time, whatever, I don't know if the default setting is global or not. It just remembers the last time you created one. So mine was set on global because the last time I created it, it was on, and it stays that way. But if the last time you said it was not, like this time, then it's not. So you just need to always be aware of that little box. Okay. All right. Oh, and another thing I had forgotten to say, when you create a new swatch, now that you know about color libraries, say that I create a new something, I don't know, this new teal Diana, right? And I'm just calling it that so that later I know to delete it. Then if I hit add to my library before I say okay to it, then that there is that library that here in VDI we don't have, or so that to share with you guys. But if I say okay to that, it should have gone over here into the library, and then you can use it on another document. You can go back to the other older one and bring it out and have that color that you created somewhere else. So even in the creating it, you have that, right? I can go here and color with that color. All right, so I just colored this thing with that color that I created in this one. All right. By the way, this one that we created today, just playing with colors, let's go ahead and save that file. I'm going to just call this one colors because I'm just doing different work with colors. And again, for BDI people, you're going to make sure to share it, save it in your drive. And so I'm going to go over to my drive. And here's my Illustrator classwork and say save. Okay. And then now let's head over and create. I'm going to add three more. Let's just do it. I'm going to four more artboards because I'm going to show you two other things. It's going to need two artboards each. So I'm going to say plus, 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 plus. So basically I have 8 artboards. Notice that the ones I add this way end up one next to each other. If I want to have them rearranged, I can do that, but I'm fine. So here's basically what I'm seeing right now. The first 4 that I created came in this kind of little pattern. The rest are down here. As you remember, I could move them around and have them change, but position, but right now I don't really care about the position. All right, so I'm going to select one of these to zoom in again so that then it's easy to move on to the next artboard. All right, so for all in the initial artboard, let's create some gradients. Let's create a box, and the box is going to be filled with whatever color you last had, which doesn't really matter right now. When you click on here, let's explore an existing gradient. So click on the fill and let's select this orange yellow gradient. Correct me if I'm wrong, because Liz, you mentioned gradients. So did I show this already in Digital Ed Techniques or did I show it here? One of you guys mentioned gradients today and I thought, wait.
It was me. I'm not sure.
So someone else, did I show it in this class yet? If no one remembers it, then no, because this is something that's different and you would know if you know how to create a gradient. Okay. All right. All right. So here I have a gradient. Now this gradient is from yellow to bright yellow to a deep orange. If I want to look at it more closely, I can either go over here since I have an edit gradient like choice, but if you don't have the properties panel and just go over here, you can also go to gradient options, or if you double click, no, if you double click, it doesn't, no, it's not like a color. Okay, so you need to go to gradient options. Okay, I thought you could double click on it to choose it. Okay, so once again, select your gradient. This is an existing gradient. Later we can make our own, but to make our own, if you start from the box, you go over here, gradient options, and here is our little box that we're going to deal with this for this gradient. So what we discover is that this gradient is made with many different stops of color, so to say. It's not, it looks like a smooth gradient, but in reality, there's 5 colors in here. First, let's manipulate these colors. Say that I wanted this to have, I'm going to move it over. Say that we wanted this gradient to not be so yellow. We wanted it to have more of the reddish tones. So I can move this color over from the bottom and then just drag it over and see how it's changing, how much of it is going to be gradient is just changing the proportion of this gradient. Okay. So by doing this, I can change my gradient and emphasize one thing or another. Now, one other thing I can do is say, well, I don't need all of these colors. I just want to go naturally from yellow to red. Why do I need so many different oranges in between, right? So I can choose a color that I don't want, and I can either click on this little trash can, select a color you don't want, click on the little trash can. That's one way. So it got simplified. Now I have only 4 colors. Or I can just grab this color and pull down, boom. And I pull down, it goes away. That's kind of easier. So I'm left with only 4 colors in this gradient. Notice that when I have only 4, well, we could have done it 2 before, but now that I have only 4 colors in this gradient, there's less, let me move this back in here. You have a bit less tonal variety. So if I wanted more yellow, I have to switch over there and make it a little bit tighter. But how about if in between this yellow and this orange, just between this yellow and this orange, I wanted a shift in their relationship. So see this little diamond over here? I can actually, let's do it with less colors. It'll be more obvious with less colors. Let's grab these 2 in the middle and get rid of them too. Again, I pulled it down or selected and hit the trash. So now basically we have yellow through red. And these colors are dropping on their own. So how do you then move this around? Because before we could move the oranges around, but now we just are stuck with what we have. It's this little triangle up there. Now, lets me switch the gradient. So now I have a ton of yellow and a little bit of red, because that's where I put that little triangle, or a ton of red and an ending of yellow. Or I want it to be pretty evenly distanced. I put it in the middle. Pretty cool. By the way, I'm showing you gradients over here in Illustrator, but for those of you who also use, Photoshop and design, all those other things, it's once you make a gradient in one of them, the tools are the same everywhere. In fact, yesterday I was using PowerPoint for something, and the gradient tool is like the same, you basically add colors or not to your gradient this way. But I'm saying add colors, and you're like, well, no, you only showed me how to get rid of color. So how do you add a color? Well, let's do that. Let me put my mouse right here and click, and now I've added a color. But it added itself as orange, but what if I wanted a different color in here? Aha. So I'm going to double click, and I'm going to have that middle color be, I don't know, something totally bizarre. Let's go with pink. So now it's going from yellow through pink and from pink through red. Okay, and I can again move it over more, move it over less. Have more red, less red, more yellow, less yellow. Can make it very sharp. It's not going to be a good look probably, but maybe if it's a transition of something in the background, that would work. Okay. So if I want another color between the pink and the yellow, then I can click down here again. And the moment I click in here, pink, I get a new color based on whatever setting that is. And I can just double click that and now make it, I don't know, green. How about deeper green? So it's more obvious. Now you start getting into a problem where you have this like grayish tones. Some colors don't transition that nicely to each other. But anyway, I'm just showing you how to add colors. It doesn't matter so much. I'm going to add one more. I'm trying to add very different colors. That way you guys can really see that you can add any color you want in between. And then you can go, oh, well, that's really nice. But you know what? I don't want the pink anymore. So you choose the pink and you drag it down, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So that's how you create a gradient. Now I've made a multicolor gradient here. Let me know if you have any questions, but I'm clearing your feedback in case someone raises their hand. But what if you want this gradient to change position? I'm going to go ahead and make it box a bit bigger. So that's just one version of a gradient that I made different colors so that what I'm going to show you next is very obvious. You don't have to necessarily make such a brightly colorful gradient, but you can. But it's easier to demonstrate the changes. So I can decide I want these lines of my gradient to be basically a line, but I can change the angle. I can go over here and say that I want the angle to be at a 45-degree angle or 135-degree angle. or 150. Okay, you can type in whatever you want, 35, hit return. So you can change that, or you can just go back to 0, which is the original one that we had. Now, that's the only change you can make when you have, I mean, you can, let's go with 90 degree, right? So then it's completely up and down. I'm going to go back to 0. The other change that you can make is that you can make it be a radial gradient. Now the radial gradient is going to, right now, let me just make it in the box. So here's the radial gradient. And here I have not only the angle, right? But I'm going to leave that angle at 0 since you already saw that for a minute. But I can also change the proportion of that height and width of my gradient. So I can have more like an eyeball. If on top of that, if I have one of the really very different ones, go with perfectly round is 100%. That's how we started. Say I go with one that's very, very oval. Now when I change the angle of it, you can see how it actually does make a difference. When you change the angle on a circle that's 100%, this makes no difference. But once you change the ovalness of it, the width and heights, so to say, are proportionally different, then the angle does make a difference. Now, if I want, as you can see here, I have a ton of red, so I would definitely have to change my reaction to that, to this, move things around. It just doesn't work as seamlessly and as cleanly as it did in the regular type of transition that we had before. But anyway, the more centered your transitions, and definitely have a ton of colors in here, but the more centered your transitions, the better for the smoothness of it. Anyway, I'm going to head back to regular up and down straight transition here, the regularly centered kind of set of colors, to show you when you click on edit gradient. Okay, I'm going to show you again. There was this word here that said edit gradient that I clicked. Now I can not only move it down there, but I can move it in here to be more precise. Really wanted to check this out and move this with more specificity and get less of that gray. More of this blue. Okay, so the same thing we had down here, but you have it up in here. So some
Deanna,
people,
can I share my screen? I've got some weird stuff going on.
sure. Let me stop my share. Yep.
Let's see, where am I? So can you see my screen now?
Yeah. Your line moved out of the
Yeah,
corners.
when I was in this fill, what I was doing was I was trying to get these to go to the trash can, and then I got these lines in here instead.
Yeah,
There-
so you basically have to see that little black dot at the very edge? Go into your image now. Go to that very final black dot.
Uh-huh.
Click on it
Yeah.
and drag it all the way into your shape, like move it in. And then you can, just not the color, but the dot, the black dot. Move it to the bottom of your shape, like, because you don't want to lose your gradient. Have it not in the middle, but that's the end of your gradient. So go move it to the bottom of that rectangle. Yeah. Now go to the other end of the black, other end of that line. Do you have the other black? Now
Mhm.
move that one in. Now you're moving just a color. Move the black. Yeah. And bring that one in. There you go. So now you have your gradient centered inside of your shape. It had gone outside of the vast edges of your shape. Now, of course, you have the same colors back and forth, so it's kind of hard, but if you're seeing this now, it is working, but you just moved colors around a bit.
Well, this all kind of happened when I was trying to get some of these.
Yeah, because by getting rid of some of the end ones, the end colors fell out of the size of out of the shape. But that's all that happened. I'll show it
But
to you.
I couldn't get, I was trying to get some of them to the trash can.
Just grab, okay, so just grab it and drag it down. It's easier. Just grab a color and just drag it down.
Down
Click
like
and
this?
Yeah, that's an easier way.
Oh, okay. Not to the
Easier.
trash can
It's-
there.
No, it's a bit easier to just do that and then have less.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But now you've also transposed, so to say, from the original. So you have no starting color. So you don't have a starting color, but your starting color goes all the way to like 1/3 in, that orange on the left side.
Right.
So if
yeah.
you have to move the color to the end because you got rid of your end color all the way to the end.
All the way
and
to
then
the
have
end,
it-
okay.
Unless you want half of it to be one same color and then the gradient to start. Okay.
So how do you get this gradient off of here? On the shape,
The tool, you mean?
the tool.
So if you notice here on the left side, if you click away and click on your shape again, that's like go to your V or selection tool and then click away from your shape. Yeah, just click away from your shape.
Oh, I see.
And when you
Okay.
click again, then it's gone.
Oh,
So it's
okay. Okay, great,
Okay.
thanks.
You're welcome. And stop your share. Before I share mine, any other questions or gradients that people want to share with me? So in order to turn that tool off that I showed her, I turned mine off and so it's gone. I can hit edit gradient. Again, another place that you can took that from is over here on the left side. Okay. You have this tool, which is the gradient tool, which I haven't shown you yet. So even if we didn't have any of this open, when you click on the gradient tool, that's when you get that box. And so instead of moving things by the numbers, this is what I was trying to show her. You can grab these little black boxes and move them in or out. And in her case, she had lost, so I can just do that. And then I have like nothing but red. And I can just move it back out again. There you go. She had gotten to a place where she had it out like this. So her colors, her final colors were outside. And that's just because she had deleted one of the end colors there. So now I just basically showed her to move it back in. But you can also use that there. You can use that to move it in around. So if I move, I don't know why it's wanting to be centered. It's just trying to be centered because I have it here centered. Okay. So that's how you create new colors that are all solid colors, right? So say you select this box, whoops, do that. So you go back to your selection tool and select this box, and I'm going to copy it, Control copy, and I'm going to go and paste it, or you can just drag with Option Alt and move it over here and cover it over all those boxes that we did before. So either you can paste it, right? Or you can just drag it over. And since it was made last, it's stacked on top, right? So I'm hiding all the rest of these boxes. And if yours weren't the same size and it's not hiding all of them, doesn't matter as long as it's some overlap. Or go put it over your flower. Just put this box over something. And now I'm going to show, the reason I'm going to show you that is because these colors right now are solid and they don't need to be solid. So say that I go to the blue, I select my blue, and I decide that my blue is going to have a 50% opacity. So I am seeing, and the reason I'm not showing it to you here, because over here it just becomes a light blue because all you see is some white behind it. But here you can really see that you're getting some opacity. So you're getting a gradient that where the blue only, you choose what? Oh, I transpose my colors. I didn't mean to do that. So the blue is having some opacity. Now let me give my green 30% opacity. Now let me give my pink 10% opacity. So I choose different levels of opacity to the point that maybe my blue is going to be actually more like 70, 80% opacity. So you choose how much you see. So right now, my pink is so light that it's almost not there. It's almost looking white. If I go back to having it be 90% opacity, then you can still see a little bit of the shape, but not much. Okay, so 90% would be that you see it almost all of the pink is there. 10% opacity is most of the pink is gone. It's only 10% of it is left. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So this explains those gradients where you have like gradients that go back out to 0. Now don't lose track. I'm going to go ahead and make them all opaque again. I'm going to go make them all 100%. Again, for those 3 colors. It's a bit easier if we have less colors. So I'm going to go ahead and actually get rid of a few of these. Let me get rid of the.
Is there a reset anywhere for those, for the, like if you kind of
Um,
lose your way in all of that percentage?
No, actually, there's no
Mm,
reason for the, since we copied it, the good news is that even though there's no reset, if you click away and click on this one, here's your original one,
Gotcha.
right?
Sorry.
And click away and click on this one. Had we not copied it, you would have lost the original one. But now that I did this one, now what I can do is make the beginning be at 0%. And then it slowly zooms in. And maybe I'll make the ending also at 0%. So then you have this gentle gradient, which by the way, none of these colors make sense to do it, but this would be how to get, like if you get a cylinder and you want to make it look like it has some shape or whatever, you can do this kind of thing, right? So give it some shine. I should probably have to make it a different color, but and I can move it over a bit to the side. Anyway, so here I'm just putting like a little bit of tone on some other tone. I don't know how it would work on dark. And it's really a gradient that's going around or something like that. Okay. So this were a little white. Went to white, so then I have a little bit of tone, but you see how this is beginning to look a little bit more like a roundish shape because of the gradient that I'm adding to this shape. Okay. So, and of course I would have to make my shape follow the top and bottom to make it look like a cylinder, but there you go. So you can use gradients for so many different reasons. You can use gradients to make, again, if I had gone to this sky, and if she wanted this sky to look like it, you know, how it's usually lighter in the bottom and darker up towards the sky, you can put a gradient. This is typically done in Photoshop when people have these blah skies that they just put a gradient over it so that it kind of gets darker at the top and get some color. So you can put gradients in Photoshop. Anyway, so this is a gradient that has very little color except for the center. Okay. Anyway, so you can do stuff beyond just making funky colors. And then if you really like it, you can save it. So let's go ahead and go back to this original multicolored one, say that this is the one that we like. If I go back to my panel, I don't have this gradient anywhere, right? So you need to make sure to save it. How do you save a gradient? Head over here to where you have the little like preview of your gradient. Click on that. And here are the presets. We had a white and black, orange, yellow, fading sky. Those are the ones that were there. We can click on this little box and it's been added to my swatches. So when I go back to my swatches, now I have the little bright multicolored gradient that I just added. Okay, So now if I get rid of half of these colors, make this one be pink to purple, and I want to save this one. When I go, let's make it be something lighter, so it's obviously it's okay. Let's just do that. I can change its opacity also when I bring it in here. That's already okay. So there you go. So now I've created this gradient. When I go over here to save it, I already see the other one was in that spot. Like that's the one I had created. But now I'll make one new one. Which, since here it just looks kind of pinkish, but what I did is I added opacity to it. So there you go. Okay. Like I took opacity away from it. That's how I created that gradient. And then I don't have to save it anymore. I can get rid of this here now. But in the future, if I make another box and I don't have my gradients open and I choose, say I had a box that was yellow and I choose to make it, then I can go back and now choose one of my gradients of these two. Okay, so I save it as a gradient. Now I'm going to leave that, leave that gradient there. And there's one more way of making gradients. I'm going to move these two next to each other. And notice that if I'm choosing this last gradient, when I make a new one, it'll come out. If I try to make a new one, it'll come out in that pink shape and form. So I'm going to delete it and select this one. Sorry, because what I want is, wrong shortcut. I keep making the wrong shortcut. I'm going to select this one because I want this fill to be what my new box is to start with, because I want it all at 100%. It's an easier way to start a gradient. So I don't have to go searching which one is the one that has, you know, like Liz was saying, which one has 0%, which one has more. So let's head over, and then this time I'm going to edit the gradient from here. Instead of going in there and clicking on edit and choose options, I'm going to click the edit gradient here. But notice that also what I can do is just click always on these three dots and more of the choices for gradients pop in. So then it's this choices are available here instead of down in the window. Anyway, I wanted to show you this last form of gradient, which is this one, which is called freeform gradient. And the freeform gradient is actually, this one had those straight lines. This one had the big circle. The freeform has like areas. You see how one area is the blue, one area is red, one area is white, one area is yellow, and there's this kind of murkish tone in the middle. I can go ahead and grab this here and say, well, I want to move the red a little bit further in. I want to make the blue over there. So it becomes a much more, if you want, tie-dye kind of situation. But anyway, it gives you gradients of colors that you could have never done before in Illustrator. It basically blends colors in. Now, how do you get a color to change? Say that you didn't want this to be white, double click in there and choose this to be blue. Yeah, so there you go. I've changed what I wanted it to be. Right? So double click in that little circle and there you change it. And what if you want to make it more or less diffuse? See this little circle that's going around it? I can grab that there and I can expand it. Or see, that makes it more or less intense or diffused. I can go over here and go, and like that, double click and make this be, I don't know, a bright green. And then play around with that. I can also make it be a green with transparency. So say that I double click on that and I want this to be less opaque. I can do it here, 50%. So now if I put this over here, all of the colors are, I double click, so I'm in translation mode. So now all of these colors are opaque, even the white there, except for my green, which I told it to have some opacity. Okay, so the same thing as before. So this is a freeform kind of gradient. And if you don't want it, so say, oh, that's the corner. So if I go back into my edit gradient and I decide that I don't want this, this color or color point, so to say, I can get rid of it by hitting the delete key, which I just did. And so that color is gone. So I'm going to select this one and saying I don't want that. So I hit the delete. Whoa. Double click on it and hit the delete key and it's gone. Okay. And then I'm left with only these two. So I don't want this green one. I make sure to have it, the white circle around it. So you double click, not double click because you double click it. This comes up, just not when you first select it, it's a single click and then it's gone. Now I'm at the mode where when I click around, I make more points. So make sure to only click on the ones that are existing. If I were to click over here, I'll make a new point. See how I have a little plus sign? So now I'm making a new one and it comes out in the same color as the last point. Okay, and I can move it around. And I can, right, so then I'm going to double click on this one and tell it to be, I don't know, I keep inventing. Maybe I'll go for a deep purple for this one.
Diana,
Okay. Yes.
I love when you do it with lines instead of point stuff.
You like the lines version instead of the points?
Yeah, it's like using the pen tool again from Photoshop.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. So anyway, play around with that. Here's the lines version. You can give it a shape. You can move it around. So over here, I switched to lines. Okay, this is what he was mentioning. I can click on this one and give this some kind of a shape.
Didn't know you could give them shapes. That's cool.
Yeah, so
I thought it was just like squiggly lines kind of thing.
right, so when I'm done, I've got like this. Now, be careful when you go print. I mean, this looks nice and psychedelic or whatever, but once you go print this, be careful because not all, you know, if you have very saturated colors, printing and whatnot. Yeah. So pretty fun, funky stuff you can do. So
Dan, will these kinds of gradients, these are still vectors, right? They'll still like, you can print those at any size?
yeah,
Or, you know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
if you use them.
Yeah. So say that I wanted this to, once again, for some reason, fit into that size, you know, so I'm going to go ahead and minimize it. And so it all kind of squishes in.
But I mean, you could also print it at like 30 feet tall and it would have the same resolution,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Mhm. Yeah, so to speak. It's going to be very different because something, you know, you're going to have so much more space in between him and here if it's 30
Right.
feet than if it's quarter of an inch. But yeah,
Right.
but it would still be, it won't have pixels. This is not pixelated, if that's what you mean. It doesn't break down. Okay. Now, this one though, if you try to save it as a swatch, it doesn't know what to do. It's like, what color is this? I have no idea. So it's not like savable as a swatch. You can though, put it in your libraries. And so you can bring it out like that, but it's not considered a color. It's more like artwork that you can bring out again. And then you can keep modifying it, right? You can go back to properties and go back to edit the gradient and keep playing with it. Okay. Whoops, I clicked on plus, so I made a new spot instead of changing its positioning. So you can keep modifying it when you bring it out again, but you can't necessarily, here, I'm gonna get some more of that pink in. You can't necessarily save it as colors like you did the other gradients. So when I went to this gradient, let me click away. When I went to this gradient, I was able to save it. I was able to make this into another option. New swap. And I said, okay, and it created a swap. Now I have the same swatch twice, but this one does not save as a swatch. Okay, it doesn't. doesn't have the plus sign. All right. All right. So I want to see some of your funky things. So don't forget to do a screenshot of some of these gradients or this little freeform gradient and give me some of this stuff in the Padlet. And again, here I have my gradient that I had created before. And don't forget that it had some opacity. But remember what's happening. It's on a stack. And so what's happening is that I am seeing some opacity here, but it's underneath. So, I mean, we know that we made some opacity there. So we need to go to the layers. And if we want this to be on top of everything, there we go. Now it'll show me that transparency. Otherwise, when it was underneath, it just looks like pale pink. Okay, so don't forget that about the transparent, anything you make that has transparency, it needs to be stacked on top. All right. So now that's a ton about colors and coloring. Now let's go back to one of these flowers. And I'm actually gonna copy this one and head over to this new one. And now let's see what happens when you start filling these things out with gradients instead, so here's with gradients, and I'm going to copy it again. And here we're going to fill it with patterns. And right now we're only using patterns that exist. We haven't made our own, but which we can. So I'm going to go ahead and double click, and I'm going to fill this. Which one's on top? Oh, this one's transparent, so I'm not sure if my top layers are transparent. So I'm going to go back to this bottom one first. And I'm going to go ahead and change this one color. Go over the properties. I'm going to fill it with, say, this pink. That was the one that was semi-transparent on the tip, or transparent at the tip and then opaque at the other side. But remember that my gradient is going sideways like this. So if I were to want this to follow precisely the petal, I would have to go and angle it, right? But it's smooth enough. I like that. And hit escape. Let's go and do that to the whole group. I'm going to go ahead and trying to always shift command a control. There we go. I've got the whole group. And I'm going to fill that with this. And then I'm going to go to this top one. And I'm going to hold shift and get this group too. And then I'm going to fill this one with, let's just go for the crazy one. Now here's where we're saying about how the gradient points makes more, or this isn't really good. Let's do orange because it makes more sense for a flower. But you can also have it, the gradient pointing differently for it to work, but I'm going to make it into a radial gradient. So now when I click away, I've got a radial gradient on that one, and I have the light pink one on the bottom one. Only since it was the bottom, you can't tell much. Anyway, now I'm selecting this one, and I'm going to try with, I'm going to put in this gradient and go, oh, that's a bit too colorful, or not, or maybe I like it. No, I don't want that. Maybe I want to take some of these colors away. It's going to be hard to distinguish from the old one by even having only pink and purple. So anyway, it's becoming a bit more fun, right? I think I left my only one that I've left blank is this purple. Let's go to one of the original ones. I'm going to go to this fading sky, which is one of the ones that came, and I'm going to transform it. Instead of going here to blue, it's going to go to green, but it's going to have color. It's going to be 100%. Cool. Maybe I want this to be half and half. 180 degrees. And this one is going to be minus 180. No, 90. No, minus 90. Trying to decide. There we go. So now I have the tips blue and green, or green and blue, and angle changing. Anyway, so as you can see, you get to the place where you can have. Okay, what happened to my share? I'm having a share problem. What are you guys seeing? I'm having an issue with my sharing.
I
Are
can
you
see your
guys
flower.
You're seeing the flower?
Yeah.
It's not. Let me stop my share. Nope, I can't even stop my share. Uh-oh. I think I've reached some kind of a my Zoom windows giving me issues there. Okay. Now it's working. All right. So there's that. There's a flower that I just went and did. It started like that, I believe, was the one that I copied, and that's what I got now, just with some gradients and transparencies and options. And then in this one, I'm going to have some fun filling it with some patterns. And when you look at the patterns that we have right now, at least in this one is where we didn't bring in the other patterns. So all we have is these two. There was that one. I'm going to undo that. Or this one, right? But when I apply it this way, it applies to the entire thing. So I'm going to undo that. So if I decide to just treat the top level to that pattern, that could work. Or if I want other patterns, what did I need to do? I can go over here and choose patterns. And I'm going to go to basic graphic dots. And maybe I'm going to bring in this little pattern. And then I can go and click on this other set and bring in that pattern. Anyway, or I can go over here to patterns and go for the decorative. I haven't put a monster patterns. I don't know. Oh, those are the ones like the first one. That's pretty cool. I'm going to do that. And for this one, I'm going to do, no, too busy. There. Okay, there you go. So now that's the flower I have. Now, if you do something like this, probably having strokes on a little tiny stroke on the flower might be a good idea. I'm going to go for a light blue and make it be 0.25. And I can even make it be a little bit opaque. Oh no, just wanted the stroke to be opaque. not the whole thing. So to give it a little bit of a existence, so to say. Oops. So there you go. Played around a little bit with different patterns for fills or different colors. How's it going with you guys? I really would like some screenshots now uploaded into uploading it into,
Diana,
yep.
I can't get into Padlet. Every time I go into it, it puts me into Photoshop rather than the other one. I can't figure out how to change it.
Okay, so I think because you must be using the same, like you need, it's a different link for each one. So one, you know, since they're mine, I go from one to the other. But in your case, you have to have, it's a different link each time. So this is the link for our Illustrator Padlet. Let me,
It
there it is. I just put it,
used-
I just put it in the chat.
It used to be something that I could just, when I was in, I could click from one to the other. But for some reason, I can't do it.
I don't know. I mean, since they're mine, I go to my home and I find all of mine there, but I don't, you know, I have different Padlets there, but how, I think
Yeah.
if they're shared with you, you know what? I've never tried to share. Wonder if I could share the Padlets with you guys. I'll try that, but I've just given you the links, right? But could I share a Padlet? Like put your, not email, this is what I've done before. I've given you the code, but the having you guys share it as in you can also, I can share in Google Classroom, because I have a Padlet that people have shared with me, but I don't know how to share. I'll have to look into it. This is new to me. Share it so that you guys maybe add members to put your names on it. That probably works. So I can go to the roster and put your emails there. That could work. I could try that. But anyway, cool. So if you go in here, remember, this is the part of the class where we get to imagine if we were in real life, we could all be walking around and seeing the stuff that you guys are making. And it's always really, what do you call it? I find it very inspiring and exciting to see what people are up to and what they're doing, because here we're just making this flower, but maybe someone's been out there doing, oh, I did the screenshot of the same thing. Screenshot this one. Anyway, screenshot of that and put it up here. And publish. Okay, I'll let you guys do it in your time, but it's cool later to come back and see everyone's different items. Okay. All right, so when you're done with that, I have something else I want to show you. I'm looking at the time for a second to see. Yeah, we're fine. Okay. So now, this has all been about color. The week before this, we had been learning about shape when we made this original flower. Let's go ahead and let's start a new, let's actually start a new file, because what I want to show you is a combination of color and shape. So make sure to save this, since we've been working on it for quite a while. Different ways to change colors, recolor, make your own process colors, edit colors, gradients, fill with patterns, that kind of stuff. So this is a good one. It has a lot of stuff in it. But at the beginning of last week, we had been working with shapes, which is how we ended up with this flower. So now let's go ahead. I'm going to close this Tory one. I don't want so many things open. All right, so let's go ahead and say file new. New in. Okay, file new. And once again, I'm going to go to my custom so that these are 5x5s. I'm going to say create. Actually, the last time I created one, it said for artboard. See that? So remember, all your settings stay, and the last one that said for artboards is about to be repeated, and that's fine with me, but I just wanted to show you that whatever you have set up is what stays. So I'm going to create a new one with 4 artboards. All right, everyone create your new file. And let's save it from the start. That way later, sometimes you forget. So let's go ahead and say save. And let's call this one blend. Blend, shape, and color, if you want. I'm gonna say, or just blends. That's all it really needs, but. All right. I venture to say I'm still working on in VDI. We still have Adobe 2020. They're actually going to ship that, I believe, the next time we go to class. Is the next time we go to class or the following one? We're going to be in an Adobe 2021 in person, because some of these tools have changed a bit in the one that I have at home in 2022, but. I know that in the labs, in the computer labs, they're updating to the new versions, but in the VDI, I don't know when they're going to do the change. Usually our terms shift between summer 1 and summer 2, but since we have no break, I don't really know when they're going to be doing the changes. Okay, so everyone, let's go to this new one. And I'm going to start by choosing a fill. And again, we're back to the beginning patterns. The basic colors, and I'm going to fill it with, I don't know, I'm going to start with pink, the no stroke. So I'm going to say no stroke. I'm going to make a box, and I'm going to zoom in, by the way, so we have only one page up. My little box there. That's pink. Now with the same properties, I'm going to switch to the ellipse tool, and I'm going to make a little circle over here. In fact, you know what? Let's select them both and let's put a bit of a stroke on it. For the first time I show it to you, I want a stroke. So I'm just putting in a 5-point stroke. Maybe we can make it a more fun color. A green. I want to be able to see it. That's why I want it to be a different color than, I mean, normally in the blend mode, I wouldn't put strokes, but I want you to have a stroke right now to see what we're about to do. That's a thin stroke. All right. Everyone have 2 different shapes with the same color and a little stroke. And I put one kind of at one end and one at the other end. So try to imitate this as much as possible. You can then play with your own, but just as a sample. All right, so now let's select both. Remember, you can do click, shift, click. When they're far apart, it might be easier than just dragging this V across to select both. So we've got both selected. Let me just see if with a right click it does it. Is there a, no, I just didn't, I never know how much right clicking allows. No, it's not under right click. All right. Let's go to object. I'm looking here to see if it gives me the choice, and it's not giving me the choice automatically. Go to object and blend. And then let's head over to blend, make. So you need to have both selected to start with, or it won't work. Blend and blend, make. Now, depending on what your last settings were, you have something different than mine. I think the basic setting will give you something different than mine, but even if you have it set like mine, is this what you have? You probably have something different. I think this is because of my last settings. Notice that what it's doing, it's blending. I have the same color, so it's not changed, but it's blending my shape. It's trying to go from rectangle to circle. Let's drop this line. If I head over here to the right now, I see a blend options that I can click on that. And you can choose what kind of spacing you want. So I'm going to go to specified steps. And right now I have 1 step, but I could make 10 steps. And I'm going to click on the preview. And now look at what it's doing with the shape. It takes 10 steps to blend from that shape to this shape. I might have lost some of you guys, but I'm going to click away. And so that's my initial shape. This is my last shape. And see how this is why I wanted for a second, this stroke. See how it's changing the shape in 10 steps? I'm
Looks
gonna
like my Tupperware lids.
Yeah. I'm clicking again on blend options. So remember, it started with smooth color. I'm going to go to specified steps and let's put in 100 steps instead of 10. I noticed that once you click on the preview on and off, then it kind of does it. And now it's a much smoother transition, right? With 100 steps. Now, I have that stroke to show you what's happening, but say that I had not stroked it. Say I go to stroke and say, and had said no stroke. Then it would just be a shape that's changing, right? If it's the stroke that shows that really something is actually happening with the shape. Pretty cool. Now, what if instead, if I double click, remember isolation mode? What if I change that first color to a different, go with a deep purple. Now the blend is happening also, color and shape. Let's go to an even more different color. It's more obvious. And I'm going to go back to my blend options. You have to leave isolation mode. Go to my blend options again. And instead of that, I'll make it be, I don't know, 50 steps. 50 steps. So you can see here how it's taking the original color, the last color, and it's going shape change and color change.
It's cool just to make a palette out of.
Pretty cool, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, I'm giving you different options with and without stroke, with and with whatever, just so that you can see what's happening. But if you don't have the stroke, then you can see this neat little gradient happening. You could have made different ones of these in different pages, but so over here on this side, I was thinking maybe we can make a blue rectangle. Go back here. Around, since I have yellow on my color, I'm going to make a round sun over here. And then I'm going to make this black, this bottom be blue. Actually, it should, I'm going to have to switch, say that this is blue. I'm going to go to layers, and I should have done it in the other order. So I'm going to put the sun on top of the rectangle. And then I'm going to select both. Cancel. I'm going to select both that and I'm going to blend them. Object. I'm going to select these two. Object. Blend. Make. So suddenly I've got something that's not so now it kind of looks like a little bit of sun in the background of a sky, right? So I put the thing that I blend into underneath, and let me actually just make it bigger. And that's blending pretty sweetly. You have to remember that when this prints, this is not going to be there. Right? So before I was showing you gradients, right here we're just blending shapes and colors and creating something similar-ish, maybe, to a gradient. I'm going to make a box. I didn't mean to do that. I'm going to hit escape. And here I'm going to make a new rectangle that I'm going to paint with green. I don't know. This is supposed to be grass, but I don't know. It's definitely not California grass. Maybe remember those effects that we used once that make things kind of go squiggly? I used this once and it was pretty cool. Let me make two rectangles. I'm going to make that rectangle. I did this a long time ago in one of the classes and it worked out really well. We were doing the a little landscape with a house and stuff like that. Let's see if I can remember. And I gave this one of those effects that was kind of trying to remember which. Distort and transform. I can't remember which because we had them here in the other tool, but let's say I use the roughen. I don't know. Here's the okay, so say I do that. I'm not sure if it's gonna work, but I'll try. So let me see, I'll do that. And then I'll blend. And I'm going to make this one a bit darker green. Maybe that tone of green. Okay, and then I'm going to select these two and I'm going to blend them. And let's see. Last time I got a pretty cool effect. So I'm beginning to get a bit of a, I have to make a few more blends, but pretty cool, right? Like a little bit of grass. Let me actually make this one a bit bigger. So you can begin to see how even with Illustrator, you can get some, even with the basic shapes that I've taught you, not even how, you know, here we have different colored grass with the background. And last time we put in a tree and a house. So this is just two shapes, okay, blended and with two different colors, both this example and that example. And what I did with the top piece, this top shape, was just, let me see if I can bring it up. I'm going to just stretch it out a little bit. It was that one piece of grass that was all squiggly. And then the bottom one was just straight, right? So I'm gonna undo that. As you blend it, you get this thing that looks like, kind of looks like grass, which is pretty cool. All right. I see 2 hands up. So I'm gonna stop my share. Well, let me get the question first, maybe something I need to show. Yes, Taria?
I missed a little bit what you just showed, because first when I was trying to do the circle on the other artboard,
Okay,
just continued from the other shape, so I had to figure it out how to distance that.
okay.
So
Let me
now
just
I had
see
to do
what, let me show one more thing and then
Okay.
I'll go and help individuals. One more thing I wanted to say, let me copy this one, control copy. It just occurred to me, I didn't show you something. Let me paste it in here because this is still a path. And if you attack it with the white area, the direct selection tool, you could choose to then change the order of this path, the direction of this path. So you can just move it up or down, you can grab this little thing and move it. If you were to add the curvature tool to it, you can then curve it. All right, so you can, I just wanted to show you this little detail before I start helping people. So remember, when you select this shape, that line going for them is a path, which if you grab with the white selection tool, you can move it anywhere you want, but from the ends, you can add a couple of different points to it with the plus sign, remember? And then with the white selection tool, you can move it around, which then gives you more like a wormy type of effect. Just play. Okay, I just wanted to show you those. And then, yeah, so stop my share and can you share your screen with me so that I can help you with yours?
Okay.
I need to move you over to this screen so I can see it better. Hold on. Okay, so here, on these, okay, what I did on these two is that I moved the sun on top of the round. So go to your layers and switch the order. I should have made first the background and then the sun. I did it the other way around. So now you go to layers, open your the little arrow next to the, yep, and then grab your sun and drag it above. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Now select, now you can escape because you're in isolation mode. You can see from the top where it says, yeah, and now select both. So click on both at the same time. Yep, and now go to blend mode. The blend mode doesn't appear there automatically. Go to blend, but wait, stop there for a minute, by the way. Because I keep telling you guys to go to blend make, but you see how there's blend options there already. So if you go straight to blend options, then you get this box already and you choose how many blends you want. So change from there. Click on that, yeah, and go to how many steps. Yeah, and then make more steps. I don't know, you gotta try.
Like what I remember.
I don't remember. Try. I really don't remember. Just try, say okay, and then you keep moving. Oh, why is it not
One thing.
blending? Oh, maybe you do need to make the blend first and then change it. Okay, so go and make the blend. I guess you weren't able to just change. That was just changing the default settings.
So the make first.
Yeah, say make first. Good. Now you can change the blend options from here then, yeah. And you already had it. So you had set it to 20, but it needed to make the blend first. So now you can choose, 40, I don't know, 50. I don't remember how many I made. Just, you gotta play around with it. The smoother, of course, the more changes, of course, the smoother your gradient. That said, this is many shapes. Now this is 60 shapes. So for your file, think about that 60 shapes is much more than, 10 shapes. So if you could do this with a gradient, do it with a gradient. So just think when it's necessary or when it's not. But anyway, just showing you, in this case, this could have been done with a gradient, one of those like non-linear gradients, right? You could have put a spot of yellow on blue. But on the other hand, when you put the gradient in there and you print it, depending how many steps you have, this might end up smoother, that might end up smoother. You need to test it, right? Which one ends up smoother? This one clearly still has some banding. If you look, you can see the different steps. So if you like, you can kind of see in the blues that it's changing. So if you were to want to do this to be really smooth, you would probably have to give it more steps, and then consider that you've got, how many objects, 60 objects. That said, they're simple objects, but you might want to consider that as far as what's better to do this or to do the gradient. Just at the end, maybe do both, make a simple file. I've never done this. Make a simple file and do a gradient, and then do this, and then see the file size and see which one is much bigger. But anyway, there you go. If you want to change the amount of that grade, so if you grab the white arrow key now, you can go to that line that's in between them, which is the path, and you can click and click on that anchor. Click first one time. You have to click and then click again with a white anchor tool. Yeah. And now you can maybe move it out to make the yellow spread out more, or move it in to make less yellow, right? So yeah, let go. You have to let go for it to change its position. Oh, well, you probably need to grab your black area tool first and then move your shapes, right? Make your shape bigger, your black shape. It's like double click. No, yeah, but that's going to change the shape of everything because it's one selection. If you want only like your sky is getting oval, like if you want it just to be your initial shape, then you have to double click to isolate that initial shape. So go to the, to the edge where you have one of the beginning ones, and double click, and that's your circle, that's your sun. So you can move your sun up higher or lower or wherever you want it, because you're in isolation mode. Okay, and then the same with, you can double click on the bottom to the bottom most, otherwise you're going to grab one of the middle ones, right? So go to the bottom most one to double click on that one, and then you can get the shape from the beginning to end up bigger. But you have to double click to get into isolation mode. I don't think you're in there yet, but you're double clicking. Yeah, you're double clicking on the edges, on the shape, not on the, double click. Okay, and now you see how the sun is not selected now. So yeah, maybe it wasn't before. Okay, and now make the shape of the blue one bigger. So for that, you need to grab the handles. No, that's just dragging it. Now you need to go to the handles. If you're just trying to make it taller, go to the middle. Yeah, that one, there you go. But see how the sun stayed round? Because now you're in isolation mode, whereas before the sun had gone oval. Okay, cool. Well done. I'm going to stop your share. Anyone else? Mary, you had a question?
It was the same. I didn't have them in the right order. That's why it didn't work.
Oh, okay. Got it. Anyone? Yeah.
Sorry. Can you show how to make that glass again?
The grass? Okay.
And share the screen, please.
Yeah, I was moving it. So basically, I made two rectangles, right? So I made one rectangle at the top, and I filled it with green, one lighter green at the top. This is more California-ish green, and that it's going yellow already. And I think I started with a skinnier one. I don't know. And then I copied that in the bottom. And then I filled it with a darker green. And this is more of a different color setting than before. Then I went and did some effects to this, and we didn't get a chance to play with those effects so much. I believe before we had it when we had the other workspace, the basic Illustrator had the effects over here under this one. Right now, those effects aren't there. So I went, I believe, under effects and under distort and transform. I believe I went to roughen. Yeah, and that's when I got these zigzaggy things. But you can change here how much you know, what percentage of distortion you want. So in this case, I think I went to someplace like that. You can detail, you can make it more or less detailed. So here you could have thin little grasses and, you know, I don't know, this one's a bit different than before. So I'm playing around with that. And then I said, you can try smooth. You can, you know, play around with whatever choices you had. I said, okay to that. And then I said, shift, click, shift, right? Select both. And I did a blend to see what happened. Make blend, but I have only 4 steps there. So I went over here to steps and maybe add, I don't know how many I added, 25. Let's try that. And there, that's even more grassy than before. You can also change the distance between your steps. That's also something you can do. Anyway, there's all these different things that you could play around with. And there you go. This grass looks even more realistic than that grass.
Mm.
Move that down and put it up there and go, oh, look at that. Anyway, so that was an example
Okay.
of
So you
just-
don't need to blend this with the sun and sky. is that
No,
right?
no, you can't. Yeah, no, that's a different
Mm.
shape.
Okay. Thank you.
because Otherwise it would be blended.
Mhm.
So there you go.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then you can have a little balloon flying over the top and a little house and a little prairie and a little horse and just have some fun. Okay. All right. Anything else you guys want to show me that you're doing or ask me?
Well, I do have a question about the shape that I mentioned and filling up with a pattern that it gets fixed. It doesn't change for me.
Oh, you showed me that. So I'm going to stop my share, open yours, and let's see what's up. So here's what her question is. When she filled with a pattern, so I'm going to go back to, let me go back to this one where we filled with patterns. So when I fill with a pattern, see, what's happening is that if I move the frame around, the pattern stays in the same place, right? And in her case, the pattern is going with her. So I'm assuming it's some setting. So let's, I can't figure it out what that setting might be, but go ahead and you do it so that you can show what we're talking about. And then I'll look at your setting. I don't know why. Is that what's happening to you guys? Like what's happening to me or to her? You show yours so that people can see what you're talking about.
That happened to me too, Deanna.
So when she, now select your move tool.
See, hold on,
Yeah,
let
but you
me,
have a pattern there. Just
Okay.
select your move tool.
okay, if I select the move tool,
And the pattern kind of moves with it. I see. And mine doesn't.
as I say, I cannot choose the
Yeah.
pattern itself. It's just,
Yeah. And if you actually expand it, does it distort the pattern? Just to see. Yeah, it does. If you were to make it skinny and fall. So what's the difference? Okay, how about you other guys? How many of you have what Mary is having and how many of you have what I'm having? Give me, okay, I'm going to clear your answers first. And if you have the same effect that Mary has, that the pattern sticks with the shape, then give me a yes. If you have like me, that I can move my shape around and the pattern stays still, then give me a no. So just to see if you guys are half and half, or if it's everyone's got one or the other. I'm seeing one yes and one no. Okay, so can you show again your shape so that,
shape.
oh, there it is. So see, she moves it and the flower kind of moves around. See how it looks like it's filled versus me.
Stop sharing.
Yeah, let me share mine versus what's happening to me.
I did give her one.
I'm gonna mute you. Okay. Versus what's happening to me is that I move my shape and it's like the pattern is sitting still. It's like mine is like a mask. So what setting could there be that is making this happen? And I would have to really I mean, I don't know if it's all the way up in the settings. Is it, you guys haven't, only one said yes and one said no. So everyone else, I want to see if it's a VDI thing.
Well, I'm not on BDI. I'm on like on my own.
Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to see, but both Ed and Dorothy are on their own, and one said yes, one said no. So then that means that it's not about that. So yes means it's doing what Mary does, and no means it's doing what mine does. Right? So Ed, yours does this too, that it moves around like that.
Yes.
All right, so it's not a VDI thing. That's the thing I was trying to figure it out. I would have to research this. I really don't know. Are there settings for fills? I was looking in the edit and the preferences. Is there any guides and grids, anchor displays, select them? This is more like something I'd have to do a research because I really don't know the reason for that. So I can go and do a Google. Basically, when you fill with a pattern in Illustrator, should it move? I mean, I don't see right now. Let me see. Appearance, opacity, no, this is all the same stuff. That's not it. I don't know. Really don't know. If I go into the pattern itself, pattern options, tiles, move tile within art, size tile to art. There it is.
Yeah.
Size tile to art. Here it is. It's probably
Okay.
that. Let me see. Let me head out now.
Yeah, how do you get to that panel?
I'll get there, but I'm learning. So no, that wasn't it then. I'll tell you guys in a minute, but I'm just still kind of trying to figure this out. Basically, I double clicked on the pattern itself, and I'm getting to the settings that create the pattern. And I thought that might be it, but it's not. Move tile with art. I'm gonna turn off move tile with art. And now I'm gonna leave that mode and let's see. No, that's not it either. I'm trying to figure it out, but I don't have the answer yet. So that's why it's not like I'm going to this is how you create patterns, right? So I'm trying to see if it's any of these choices.
Mine have the two on the top checked. Size tile to art and
Yeah,
move tile with
and
art.
yeah, I just tried both and it didn't seem to make a difference. That right in front, 5x5, show tile edge, dim copies, source swatch bound. I don't know. So I just turned both on like you have, but see, it's still doing that to me. So that's why I'm saying it didn't happen. So I don't know. I don't know. I have to do more research because this is nothing I've seen before. I don't know.
I'll Google it too. I thought that maybe,
Yeah. And then if you know the answer, tell me next week. That way.
if I find it, yeah, I will.
That way we can both learn. Yeah, I don't see it. I don't see it. So basically all I did, you guys, to go into this that I was just doing, I just double clicked, just like we edit a color, right? I clicked on the fill. Here's, if I want to edit a color, I'll go and double click, right? Here, what I did is I selected the pattern, which I believe was this one, and I double clicked. And so it gives you, it's that what you're seeing is that we're inside of isolation mode, right? Because I haven't created patterns with you. So this is how you create a pattern. It's with this mode. And I was just looking at the settings to see if there was something there. But I can't tell. I can't figure it out. So anyway, I thought it might be here, but it's not here. So, and then I'm leaving it by hitting the escape key. There you go. So, don't know, sorry. I'm gonna fill it with something else. No, it's still that behavior, so I really don't know. All right, anything that I might know? Any other questions that I do have an answer for you? No?
I like that pattern.
Yeah, this is a cool pattern. Yeah. And yeah, I don't remember in the past. So in my memory, I haven't used these set patterns in a while. In my memory is that in the past, patterns would do what they're doing to you. Like, let me go into my personal set colors, see what's happening to me here. If I do a pattern here, what is it doing? Yeah, it's still doing the same thing as it's doing for me, which means it moves around. So this is the default setting because I haven't used patterns in a while. So I don't really know. I'd have to look and see how to make that pattern stick with your shape. Something like that should be what you should Google. All right, guys, it's almost 10 minutes over time. Is there any other question? Oh, is it the move tile with the art option? Oh, that's Ali's idea. Yeah, but it didn't work. So, anything else you want to know? Or about the stuff that we did? Okay, so play around with shapes, patterns, colors, fills. Okay, make some shape. Give me a version of see, yeah, when you move this flower around, it changes all the time because it's filled with patterns. And so depending on where you put it, I have these yellow guys in there, or I have all green. Yeah. So go ahead and try to create something, new shapes with this, versions, variety. Just, you know, I'm going to double click and make this really, really tiny. And so then see how things change. You know, when you begin to change things, how things really mess around. So go ahead and do something with this and try to put it in the Padlet. Don't just do what we did in class, which is great. Thank you for putting the gradients, putting the flowers and stuff like that. That's awesome. Look at the beautiful colors that you got here. Who posted this one? Love this pattern. So see, whoever posted this one, go and edit it and tell me your name. Tell me now, and I'll put your name in there if it's you. But if not, go up to edit and then put your name there. Okay. So we know who posted that one, because right now I don't see it. And then, yeah, try to create some other stuff, just like Mary here created a baby. Way over here, we had some owls. Just try to make something new with everything you learned today. It doesn't need to be awesome, perfect, great. It just needs to be something else just to show us that you're playing around with your stuff. Okay. All right. We had already saved this file, so now you can just close it. And I'll see many of you guys in the digital design techniques class in about half an hour. I'm going to go see if I can do more honey and tea.
Right. See you
Take
soon.
care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.